If I can ask members of council to please come up to the council chambers. Do we have? Members of council, can I please have you take your seats? This meeting is now resumed. If you can please take your seats, members. Thank you. If I can ask members of council to please rise for a moment of silence, and during this time, please remember Warren Frederick Beasley and Pat Chastang. Thank you. Members of council, we will now review and confirm the order paper. There are 26 items left on the agenda. Yesterday, council decided to consider item CC 7.3 on proposed Bill 108 and More Homes, More Choice Act 2019 and the Housing Supply Action Plan would be the first item of business this morning. City Council will consider member motions at 2 p.m. Our first item after member motions would be item CC 7.1, the Toronto Ombudsman 2018 Annual Report, and that will be followed by item CC 7.12 on Carillion Canada versus the City of Toronto Proposed Settlement. And I anticipate that council will meet in closed session on that item. So if I can just ask members of council that have an interest on this item, would they like to go in camera on this item? Oh, Councillor, okay. Okay, we'll wait then. Members, if we complete item CC 7.3 before the recess, I propose that council revisit the order paper at that time. I will ask for release of member holds at this time. No. Okay, all those in favor of adopting the order paper? Councillor Cressy, what? Councillor Cressy?
Yeah, I got inspired. I can release on page 6, MM 7.22. It was added to the agenda yesterday. That's endorsement of the Toronto Biannual of Art 2019. I can release that if you'd like.
I think we, do we have to wait till we go to the member's motion to do that? At 2 o'clock?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you. All those in favor of adopting the order paper? Carried. So our first item is CC 7.3. And I believe that the Chief Planner has a presentation. Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm going to spend a few minutes this morning taking you through this report that, with apologies, was dropped on you last night for your homework to give you a basic understanding of what we are outlining in the report and the recommendations that are before you. It really is the best analysis that we could provide in the amount of time that we've been provided to in the context of the provincial release of a new piece of legislation. So, just to give you some, start with some background, this bill, Bill 108, was tabled on May the 2nd. There is a 30-day comment window for the report. It provides, our report provides you with our preliminary comments on the effect of the legislation. The focus of the report is on the changes that the legislation together provide. In a way, the legislation provides or addresses the framework that the city has for managing growth, the way that we plan the city. The combination of the Planning Act, the DC Act, the LPAT Act, the Heritage Act, all really work together, and they represent our toolkit for planning growth, how we really link new population in this city to the community infrastructure that we need for livability, for achieving a healthy city, how we achieve an economic and socially responsible city. Our report highlights where we believe there are impacts in the bill. These impacts will be financial. They'll be on planning outcomes such as parks and other community infrastructure, on the process that we all desire to work collaboratively together with our communities, and on the pressure that we will put on heritage resources. I want to emphasize that this province has not issued regulations, and we really do need these regulations to fully understand the implications of the legislation. I'm going to use a lot of may and could words today because of the level of uncertainty that we are judging this with. So the backdrop for the bill, I think, is a collective desire that we all have with the province and our communities. Certainly City Council is seized with this to address our housing needs. That's really the emphasis that the province seems to have put in front of this bill, and I think that's an admirable emphasis. But we actually struggle both with the bill's ability to make housing actually happen, and we struggle with the kinds of communities that may result where municipalities across the province may have to actually choose between what community infrastructure is funded and what community infrastructure is foregone. And that's not a path that we have been on in the past with the planning that we undertake. Fundamentally, it asks the question, and we're asking the question, can the city supply its way to affordability? Can the city, and what kind of city will result from really an oversimplified approach to planning in a way is a very, very complex business. All of you, council, understand that. Toronto builds a lot. These numbers represent our very robust pipeline, units that have been built, units that have been approved and not built, currently under review. We are big time in the planning and building of housing in the City of Toronto. We are well achieving our growth plan expectations. And while we focus on housing and must focus on housing, we have to plan for the long-term livability and how we actually manage and fund infrastructure for this growth. I want to emphasize as well that we have achieved housing and community infrastructure in lockstep. We have a very good track record of doing both. One does not have to be at the exclusion of the other. It's also about how we're growing. When you think very carefully about how this city is growing, you've seen the cranes, you know that more people are living in tall buildings. We have to calibrate how we use these provincial tools to our Toronto context. This is very, very important in a built-up environment where we're seeing more mid and tall buildings on smaller lots with smaller units. These are vertical subdivisions. That's what they are. And with community infrastructure needs that must be matched with the type of people that are living in these buildings and how they go about living their daily life. These are very, very important principles to remember when you undertake planning to be people-centered. The limited toolkit that we have, this council is often seized with very difficult matters around revenues and costs. This is our, on the left side of the screen is our current toolkit. It works in different ways for different reasons. The 37, many of you have had experience with Section 37. It's a negotiated agreement between the city and landowners in accordance with the official plan. It deals with local benefits that have been exchanged for decisions to increase height and density. Development charges are a per unit charge. They're applied citywide, and they're substantiated by a very complex and elaborate background study. Parks levy, been around since 1973 or earlier, is based on land value. And it's calibrated to where the city has the greatest need, in fact, areas of the city that have deficit. The bill proposes a single approach, moving to the right side, a single approach of community benefits charge, which would be capped. It's based on a strategy that we presume is related to some sort of assessment of need. It requires us to undertake a community benefit strategy in advance of applying a charge. It blends all of these tools. It limits the use of parks levy. It repeals our alternative rate provisions. It restricts municipalities in that they must choose really between a parks levy or utilizing the CBC charge. We cannot use both. The financial impacts could be significant if, and we recommend this principle in the report, if this is not revenue neutral to the city. And I would emphasize that this will be very, very difficult to discern because, as I have been quoted as saying, we are blending apples, peaches, and pears, different types of revenue tools, different types of planning and growth tools. The current budgeted funding for park infrastructure in the capital plan is significant. The number is on the screen. And certainly the past performance of Section 37 for local community benefits and facilities is significant. Bill 108 introduces a cap. That cap is not known. It requires a background study. There are provisions for timelines, restrictions, exceptions, which our finance officials are quite tentative about in terms of the actual exposure to revenue reduction that these changes represent. This slide highlights the services that Bill 108 impacts, 10 services that would be rolled into the community benefits charge. Part of our 10-year capital plan across a really broad scope of infrastructure is impacted by this. And I am not saying that this money is gone, but I am saying that we are exposed to a reduction in the budgeted infrastructure that's called for in the 10-year capital plan. On parks, we currently use an alternate rate for us on a sliding scale for larger sites. This is eliminated by Bill 108, and it remains unclear as how this might be accommodated in the new CBC approach, the community benefits charge approach. What's happening as the city has intensified is that sites are getting smaller. 60% of the sites are typically much, much smaller. So if we are only restricted to a base rate of 5% for residential, and we're not allowed to calibrate for density, and you can see the amount of density that one might be able to achieve on a given site, a small site, really all we can look forward to on the majority of sites is a small park, which we estimate is about half the size of a NBA basketball court. All of members of council have experienced complete community development in your districts. I can think of Agincourt Mall, where we're going through a process now in Scarborough. Honest Ed's a famous one downtown. A couple in the west recently, Plant World, or even Northwestern Hospital on Keele. This one at Lawrence and Dufferin is and just one of many, many examples where under the current system we've been able to achieve growth and community infrastructure, and how Bill 108 would affect and limit our ability to achieve that infrastructure and the kind of utility that we would need on a site this size, and the utility that would result as through a much smaller park. And in fact, yes, an increase in housing, but remember, we plan for balanced growth in the city. We try to achieve a whole host of community infrastructure results when we're planning. We should not be pitting housing against community infrastructure. It's a false premise. The amount of parkland provision that you see here per area resident is, we believe, by any standard, in a fast-growing city, not the kind of practical test that we want for a livable city when parks are so significant, when you consider mental and physical health, the livability of our neighborhoods, and the environment. And there's just a couple of renderings of how the bill would affect the type of typical complete community development that we're seeing. Remember, our goal is to try to strike a balance between all of our planning goals when we undertake this kind of exercise in planning. Just a few final slides. I mentioned DCs. They're a citywide tool. So they underpin, in many ways, social cohesion in this city. They, especially in a city where some areas are not experiencing the kind of growth and change that other areas are experiencing. There are many communities in need, and where investment can be made in service and enhancement of well-being, famous example, the renovation of the Albion Library, development charges are there to help advance our capital budget planning. Childcare, another major concern when we're building complete communities. The 10-year capital plan includes many services which alone or in combination are funded from 37 NDCs. In fact, 12 centers with over 580 spaces are planned for utilizing these tools. Just to finish, a few other highlights summarized in the report. The timelines, we're going back to a pre-Bill 139. It's actually less than pre-Bill 139 timelines. In my experience, in my 35 years of doing planning, this is just not practical. You cannot do a rezoning in 90 days. I don't care how good the application is. I don't care how good and collaborative the process has been. It is not practical. The limited use of inclusionary zoning, we are bringing forward an inclusionary zoning package for Council's consideration in accordance with the legislation. That has not been taken away. However, its utilization has been limited to certain locations around major transit station areas, and it actually has been tied to the implementation of major transit station areas and development permit, the use of a development permit, such that it could frustrate the timing of bringing forward in inclusionary zoning. Finally, we are returning to an OMB-like adjudicated process, really without having fully experienced the Bill 139 process. It's only been up and running functionally maybe for 9 months, and it is now being repealed, and we're going back to the rules that maybe some of Council may be familiar with in our past life. For the Ontario Heritage Act, two highlights that I would draw your attention are thematically, it's about making the process of listing and designations more like development applications. Some of that may be appropriate insofar as we've always been concerned about giving proper notice. However, it will introduce new burden, administrative burden, and complexity into the process, and both from a notice, a procedure, and an appeals point of view. Limits on designations may also be problematic for what is admittedly an often challenging process of getting out in front of development when we are trying to determine and discover what appropriate heritage resources exist when we have the considerable backlog of that work to manage at the same time. You'll recall, Madam Speaker, that Council dealt with a report in January, February about the growth plan amendments that were introduced. The growth plan has been brought forward in its final, the amendment has been brought forward in its final form. As part of this package, it comes into effect tomorrow. So all decisions will have to comply with or be conform with the new growth plan as of tomorrow. A few things to emphasize here is that as we reported in February, the conversion of employment lands has typically only been through a municipal comprehensive review. This amendment opens a window in Toronto's context for 1/3 of our employment lands to be exposed to potential conversion. And as we reported, this is 180,000 jobs that are supported in these employment lands in the orange and blue on the map. The staff at the ministry are interested, of course, in further opportunities to identify PZs. They've advised us of that. Our worry is, though, that a window will open tomorrow. People may advance interest in conversion, and we will have to manage this process through a work program adjustment to undertake local area studies to support and be able to give council advice as to whether or not these conversions would be appropriate. So a summary of what we've got in front of you. I realize it's complex and it's represented in 35 recommendations that touch a whole host of city divisions. We are formally asking the province for an extension on the comment period. It simply isn't enough time. We are requesting the province to issue draft regulations to fully understand and comprehend the legislative change that's called for. So many of the details will be in regulations. The whole concept of revenue neutrality, a very difficult one for us to estimate at this point in time, but the significant worry that we have around our budget, wanting to have a continued transparent and thorough stakeholder consultation is our norm here at the city, and a series of other recommendations that deal with the other specific acts and the growth plan. We will, just to complete my presentation, we will be continuing to do an assessment of the legislation, and will be, in any event, supplying the ministry with both our staff report, any decisions or comments that come from this body, and any further analysis that we're able to undertake before June the 1st, should the deadline not be extended. With that, I will return to my seat, and staff will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. I'll begin with questions to Parks, Forestry, and Recreation. Our 10-year capital plan for parks and recreation facilities, what is it funded by?
Through the Speaker, so the PFNR capital budget is a 10-year plan. It's approximately $1.9 billion over the 10-year plan. 39% of that is for state of good repair, which is funded through debt, so will not be impacted by
growth, not
the presentation.
state of good repair.
The breakdown for the rest of the budget is 36% is funded through development charges, or $703 million.
Yep.
Section 42, cash in lieu, Section 37 make up another approximately 20% of the budget, approximately $370 million. So based on the Chief Planner's presentation for the
I have a lot of questions, if I can just... So the 10-year capital plan is a growth-related, is a $1.9 billion plan.
The 60% of it is growth-related, 40% of it is state of good repair.
60% of it is growth-related. So of our growth-related plan for new parks and new community centers, 36% is funded by DCs and 20% is funded by 37 and 42. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is our 10-year plan, can we build our 10-year plan based on the changes that are coming forward right now?
Our 10-year plan is based on projections of the existing revenue tools. So once the regulations have been established, the entire 10-year plan will have to be recast based on those new rules.
All right. And does our 10-year plan for new parks and new community centers include boards right across the city?
That's correct.
All right.
Across the city.
I'd now like to ask childcare questions. Speaker, if my time could be put on hold, I'd ask childcare to be ready. Thank you. So to Children's Services, how many new childcare facilities do we currently have underway in the city?
We currently have 12 capital projects,
All right, and those 12 capital projects for new childcare, how many kids will they serve?
583 spaces,
583 spaces. What is the cost of those 12 facilities?
$38 million,
$38 million. And how much of that is funded by DCs?
approximately $20 million.
20 million of 38 million? And are those facilities right across the city?
Yes, they are.
Can we build them if the DC formula changes?
No, we cannot.
Thank you. I'll then move over to finance or to Tracy Cook. Hard infrastructure, our 10-year growth plan for hard infrastructure, water, hydro. What percentage of that is DC funded?
So through you, Madam Speaker, the capital projects for our rate budgets are fully rate funded. Where we see the impact is the 10-year capital plan specifically related to transportation.
Yep.
On the overall 10-year plan, tax supported 26-point-some billion, 8.1% of that is development charges, which is about $2 billion. And of that, I think transportation's about $5.4 billion, so 20%. We could do the 8% on 5.4, we'd have that number.
Sorry, could you give me those numbers again? You
Right.
were going quick.
So the tax support, in total, the tax supported capital 10-year plan
Yep.
is $26.2 billion over the 10 years.
Yep.
That is absent Toronto Water, Solid Waste, and Parking Authority, which are rate-based and
Yep.
funded there. Of that number, 8.1% relies on development charges, which is approximately $2.1 billion. That's for the totality of the city, including transit expansion, TTC, et cetera.
So that 2.1 billion, which is DC funded, just to be clear, what that goes towards? That goes towards,
Yep, so the 2.1 is a part of the total 26.2
Yep.
billion, right? So the categories where we see it is transit expansion, Toronto Transit Commission, transportation services, and then facilities and fleet. PF&R is already discussed, other city services, shelter support and housing, and onwards.
so just on that, so transit expansion, that's building new transit.
Correct.
Transportation services, what is that money going towards?
So that's both state of good repair and growth, I would presume. The 10-year capital plan for transportation services is $5.4 billion, which is 20% of that $26.2 billion 10-year plan.
So transportation, is that building roads?
That's resurfacing, rebuilding roads.
So if we lose $2.1 billion or somewhere about that in DCs, how will we continue to resurface roads, build roads, and do that transit expansion?
So if we look at, we rely on 8% of the 26.2, so that 2.1 billion is 8% of 26. 8% of the 5.4 billion is what we would lose out of transportation services. So in and around the 400 some odd $1 million mark over the 10-year plan.
Thank you. Councillor McKelvey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My questions are about the Conservation Authorities Act, which wasn't really covered in the brief. I don't know who wants to answer those questions. The first is, this looks like it's a bit of an omnibus bill. Can you just speak to what the changes are to the Conservation Authorities Act and how those might have implications on the City of Toronto?
Through the Speaker, we are still formulating our comments on the Conservation Authorities Act. I cannot speak to it from my own perspective this morning. I don't know if the City Manager has something to add.
In speaking with government relations, what Greg just mentioned is absolutely true. So we're still in the early days in terms of formulating our opinions of it. But the consultation period is not cut off as of June 1st, so we still have opportunity to review and gather our thoughts and put them forward.
Okay. I know that this government wants to make changes to the Conservation Authority Act. They tried it under Bill 66. I think they're trying it again under Bill 108. I think we have to be very careful. Our area, as you know, water courses don't follow municipal boundaries, so I think we have to pay close attention to that. Okay, on that front, I'll follow up with you offline on this. My additional questions are about Section 37. Could you tell me how they're
Through the Speaker, in accordance with the official plan and policies and procedures.
Just one moment, please. Councillor Bailao, Councillor Matlow, Councillor Cole, please. Please? Councillor Matlow, please, can you take your seat, please? Councillor Bailao?
Through the Speaker, in accordance with the official plan and policies and procedures that have been adopted by this council, staff and applicants negotiate community benefits on in relation to a development application where there's a request for an increase in height and density above an official plan threshold that we have, and there is a negotiation around identifying what community benefits may be appropriate in association with that specific development. It might be a contribution to a local community center, for example, or maybe it's a piece of infrastructure on site, and there is an agreement reached in relation to the increase in height and density and the land value associated with that. I can't give you a hard and fast number because that number moves around a little bit, just to say that it is a negotiated arrangement on each and every site on a local area basis.
But it's really, it can, in a sense, it can encourage poor zoning, right? Because you get benefits if you go over the zoning. So in a ward where you're well zoned, you're not getting those community benefits right now.
So through the Speaker, that is something that has been observed about Section 37 over the years, and we are steadfastly resolved to avoid that kind of characterization. We look at the entire breadth of the official plan and the policies in the official plan. We come to an opinion about whether or not that project is good planning from a built form point of view and from a policy conformity point of view across the official plan. We then look at the community benefit that could be applied so as to not get them out of order and have one adversely affect the other.
But is there right now a big disparity between wards and how much money is in Section 37?
Through the Speaker, so the use of 37 is a local planning tool. It is associated with the growth and change that is happening on a local area basis, and certainly acknowledge that growth and change is happening unevenly across the city. Some areas are confronted with a lot of change, other areas none at all. That is why in the toolkit, the Parks Levy tool and the DC tool are also important. When you look at all three work together to deal with both local pressures of change and citywide pressures of change.
So can they be pooled on bigger projects? For example, in my ward, maybe I want to transfer funds to Councillor Crawford's ward because our residents will use those parks too. Can that be done?
Yeah, so through the Speaker, on a local area basis, meeting a local test, certainly we have had experience in the past where a park may be, the object of a community benefit contribution, and that park may be, of interest to a couple of councillors and a couple of communities, and certainly that would be an appropriate Section 37 benefit.
So with Bill 108 and the community benefits charge, it looks like right now there's not the regulations. You don't know how it's going to roll out, but similarly, could funds be pooled for bigger geographic regional projects as well?
Well, the way that we read the draft legislation is that the community benefits charge would be a charge applied to all development above a certain threshold, and it would lose its utility on a local area basis and be completely pooled on a citywide basis, unless in the regulations there was a way to maintain a local lens, which I would submit we would be desirous of, because you're still dealing with growth and change in some areas which are experiencing such significant growth and change that 37 is the only tool to mitigate against those changes.
Thank you. Sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Councillor Bradford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Chief Planner, the province's provincial policy statement and city's official plan has a definition of affordable housing based on average market rents for the purpose of building rental housing. Is that correct?
Yes, 100% of average market rents.
And could you tell us what in this legislation gives the city newer, stronger, or better powers to actually secure affordable housing at these rates?
I'm not aware of anything in the legislation that speaks specifically to the types of things that we're looking at through the development of the HOT plan, for example. A range of different tools, as I indicated in my presentation is a supply-based approach, which we feel is not specifically targeting a subset of the objective around actually producing affordable housing.
Just one moment, please. Councillor Perruzza, Councillor Cole, please, we are trying to listen to the questions and answers. Not when somebody is talking. And Councillor Cole, please. But when a member of council is on the floor asking questions, we have to respect the member of council to have some quiet. Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Councillor Bradford.
Yep, thanks. Just picking up on the supply side there, I think that's a good point. We talk a lot about supply. A lot of people, feel supply is the panacea to address the affordability challenge in this city. But we have built 242,000 units in the last 15 years or so. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How many of those units would you estimate were affordable?
A very small percentage. I have those numbers somewhere, but it's a very, very small percentage, and as we've acknowledged in other staff reports and other initiatives, through the Housing Now initiative, the City's 11 Site initiative, the Open Door program, the ability to approve and move forward on 1,000 units or more a year. All of these initiatives are around acknowledging that the supply side itself is not going to help us with our affordability objectives.
So supply is definitely a piece of it, but it's probably not all of it.
It's a piece of it, and it manifests itself in accordance with our official plan and our growth areas along our avenues. But there are areas of housing need that simply will not be addressed by the market itself.
So let's pick up on IZ, inclusionary zoning, one of the new tools that we have to sort of secure some of that. If you were to estimate how many units of affordable housing could be secured under inclusionary zoning based on the powers in Bill 7, which was the bill that introduced that, and the Bill 139 system, how does that compare to what we might expect to get under Bill 108?
So through the Speaker, it's a very difficult question to answer. The new bill limits the applicability of inclusionary zoning to major transit station areas and hooks it to other tools around the approval of the MTSAs and development permit system. So the preliminary conclusion we've reached is that it's restricting our use, whereas before with Bill 139, we could apply it geographically to a broader range of instances and situations across the city. I can't give you a specific impact number other than to say it will be less.
So very quickly, with the old bill, we had more options to do inclusionary zoning, which is a good way to bring and introduce affordable housing options. With Bill 108, we would have less.
We'll have less. The good news is we can still use the tool. It's the limitations and restrictions that we're concerned about.
Okay. So overall, in your opinion, changes to Bill 108 are made. Are we likely to get more affordable housing as proposed or less?
Specifically, there are no tools in Bill 108 that address head-on our affordable housing challenge.
Okay. Very quickly, the new growth plan targets come into effect tomorrow. Big changes impacting our employment lands. We provided comments through Planning and Housing Committee and feedback to the province on this. How did they respond to that feedback that we provided?
Through the Speaker, the growth plan amendment that comes into force tomorrow does not make any changes. They have, however...
But we did provide comments.
We did provide comments requesting that we go to a 95-5 split on lands inside and outside provincially significant employment zones. They have not modified the maps to date. They've indicated a willingness to continue to discuss that, but that would have to manifest itself in a further growth plan amendment. I will highlight, however, they did transition our OPA 231 package of conversion requests that are currently at the LPAT. That is something that we did ask for. We are in this report asking for further transition on some of our large secondary plan instruments because those planning frameworks put in place housing permissions that enable housing to happen more quickly.
Thank you very much. Going to jump over to our city manager very quickly. So there's a lot still to come from the province, which I think, and that was the caveat here in the presentation. The devil is in the details. There's a lot of information we don't know. But have we heard anything from the province on Bill 108 that would indicate the province will be providing additional resources for planning? More resources for tribunals, I understand that, but what about for planning when they're talking about updating MTSAs and other policies?
Thank you.
So through the speaker, I haven't heard anything as specific as that, so I can't say whether or not the news will be positive or negative, but I did have a chance, though, this morning to meet with the Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and certainly the message from her is that there's a need for us to be able to sit down and work through in advance of the regulations being developed, and maybe some effort being made to better understand the true implications of Bill 108, and certainly as it relates to what your chief planner is talking about. So, which is clearly identified in the recommendations as something that needs to happen, and so I can say that there certainly is a willingness to sit down and talk about what it is that's being contemplated.
Thank you. Councillor Wong-Tam.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and through you to our Chief Planner. Do we have any assurances or inclinations that the old system, the new system will collect as much as the old system?
No, through the Speaker, as we've outlined in the report and our analysis to date by our finance officials, we've highlighted various areas where we're concerned about revenue neutrality.
And regarding this new Community Benefits Authority, have we received any details regarding the form, the breadth, or the reach of these new powers?
Through the Speaker, the details will come in the regulations. There is indication of a cap, an overall cap on the amount. So when you're translating the total value of 37, 42, and soft DCs with the new CBC, knowing that cap is an essential piece of information if we're trying to translate on a revenue neutral basis.
And once the legislation is passed, will we have to construct a new division within the planning division to manage the transition and changes that are now before us?
Through the Speaker, I don't know about a new division, but certainly an interdivisional team will have to be struck to deal with developing. The legislation does call for the city or municipalities in Ontario develop a community benefit strategy, which is not unlike something like a background study that we've done for DCs, to understand what our needs assessment, what needs we have and assess those needs so that that can be baked into the community benefits charge and tied to our long-range budgeting process.
Like currently right now, we have applications that are sitting pre-OMB, post-OMB and LPAT, and then there's going to be another need to transition again into the new Bill 108 LPAT/OMB regime. You will not need additional staff to manage all those changes? Will you need additional resources to do this work and process the application?
So through the Speaker, I'm not saying that at all. I'm today giving you a report on the implications of the bill. We do have a line in the financial implications about resource impacts needing to be assessed, and that will come in the coming months. I can pretty much conclude that there will be resource impacts, especially through the transition period that may last several years of getting new systems and procedures up and running.
Right. And the province has claimed that Bill 108 is necessary to speed up the planning and approval process, to cut this strangling red tape, and to increase the housing supply. Does Bill 108 achieve those objectives of the province?
Through the Speaker, the bill does speed up the ability to appeal applications. It is staff's view that that sets up something that many of us have experienced around pushing the conversation more toward an adversarial conversation instead of a collaborative conversations. And when we've done some of our best planning, working with developers and communities, it's been through the collaborative process and not through the adversarial process.
And would you say that this new process that's being sped up, that will speed up appeals, not necessarily approvals, change the dynamic of collaboration to one of perhaps more adversary? Is it going to give us better planning outcomes? Will it give us better buildings, city building achievements? Will it overall build healthier, more affordable, livable communities?
Well, that's, through the Speaker, that's something certainly that we have our eye on all the time in making and giving council advice about whether or not to accept a rezoning, is all of the things that you identified in your question. The tension that this sets up is that we want to be able to recommend a good planning outcome in accordance with the official plan. We also need those financial tools to get to good planning. If we don't have an assurance that we've got that community infrastructure coming with the rest of the planning package, we are going to more often be in a place where we're not going to be able to recommend something that isn't supported through the community infrastructure.
And my final question is that if the process becomes far more adversarial and much easier and quicker to get to the appeal process, in the fight that is now before us, because that's what planning will become, no longer collaborative, no longer about partnerships.
Thank you.
You then have winners and losers. Who wins and who loses? Developers, the lobbyists, the global
Counselor,
REITs.
your time.
Who wins or who loses?
Through the Speaker, I'm not going to speculate on winners and losers and the characters that are involved in the play. I think what we have been able to achieve at the City of Toronto are good, balanced outcomes that are in accordance with our official plan, where communities accept change, where a great deal of very good development by good developers has happened. That's where my mind is at, that we want to reorient the legislation toward a much more positive approach to city planning.
Thank you. Mayor Tory.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just had a couple of questions, and they are for the Chief Planner. First, can I assume correctly that the applicability of the financial engineering here at our expense on growth paying for growth, but the applicability of that financial engineering would be the same for any growing municipality in the province? So if you look at the city's largest urban centers, for example, or even looked at smaller urban centers that were growing, that the financial engineering and the possibilities or probabilities of the effects that you outlined, admittedly without the regulations, are going to be the same on those municipalities and their ability to have growth pay for growth as they would be on us.
Yeah, this, through the Speaker, Mr. Mayor, this is a provincial piece of legislation. It applies both to fast-growing areas such as parts of Hamilton, for example. I've been in touch with Hamilton, with Durham. Our staff have been in touch with many municipalities. Even in a suburban example, there are concerns coming from Durham region. So and Toronto has both fast-growing urban and suburban environments to plan. So in so many ways, this is an Ontario issue that needs to be resolved in many different urban contexts, suburban contexts across the province.
Well, in commending you for an excellent report, you already really sort of answered my second question, but it was, have you been in contact with some of the equivalents to our Chief Planner, to yourself, to see that they would share this concern that seems very evident from your presentation, that we are, we run the risk of seeing gutted some of the funds that we rely upon to do things, frankly, we've been criticized for not doing in the past for the kinds of things that were ferreted out by some of the questioning from Councillor Cressy. And do they, based on these conversations you've had to date, share the concerns that it would appear this bill is going to gut or very adversely affect those funds?
Yeah, through the Speaker, Mr. Mayor, we have been in touch. Staff have been in touch. I've personally been in touch. We have both structured and unstructured relationships with Ontario municipalities, and we'll be continuing to discuss that with them through the commenting period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you? Councillor Bailão.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Speaker, am I right in understanding that the principle of growth paying for growth, that we've calculated our development charges, is out the window with this legislation?
Through the Speaker, we've been cautious in raising the concern and our reading of the legislation, the lack of regulation. We are concerned about the revenue neutrality when you look at the restrictions, the time limits, the other legislative necessities that have been put in the bill. It is hard not to conclude that it will be a reduction in our revenue, and that's, I believe, an opinion that's shared by our financial officials.
Because our development charges used to have, I believe it was 18 categories that grow when the city grows, from childcare to libraries to drains that need to be happened, and we're down to 6 of those that will only be able to be charged to development charges. Is that correct?
That's correct, and I'm looking at my finance friends over there, but my understanding is we have a series of services, 6 services that are 75% of our DC revenue. I think it's 10 or 12 that are about 25% of our DC revenue. It's the 10 or 12 and the 25% of our DC approximately revenue that is scooped up and rolled into the community benefits.
But doesn't
charge.
good planning acknowledge that we need those areas as well to grow as our population is growing, as our city is growing? So
Yes,
that
through the Speaker, that's the conclusion that we're unavoidably coming to, that if we cannot assure council in recommending a rezoning without the assurance that you've got the community infrastructure to go with it, they connect. The growth plan has them connecting.
So
Without the
now-
two connected, it makes it difficult to say that's good planning.
Yeah. So now going a little bit into the affordability factor. So this was all done to produce to create more affordability and more homes. So what in this legislation ensures that any savings that or any more profits that the developer will get will be passed on to the purchaser or the tenant?
Through the Speaker, I don't believe there's any line of sight in the legislation that connects reduction in municipal costs, which is what the preamble of the bill says, to an affordable housing unit. There is no line of sight. So we we're able to draw no conclusion that the bill
Or
will
measurements.
assure.
There's nothing that will come back and measure, has this been successful? There's no accountability, nothing.
No, not that we can see, other than the maintenance of the inclusionary zoning tool.
Okay.
We don't see.
Through the development charges, we had a portion that was to pay for affordable housing. And if I'm not mistaken, this was a significant amount that actually enabled us to have the open door program. Is that correct?
Mr. Hatton?
Through the chair, that's correct. I think it's about 6 or 8% of the residential charge was for affordable housing.
So will we be able to continue charging the development charges for affordable housing?
No, those costs would have
But
to
isn't
be.
the purpose of this bill to create more affordable housing? So they're taking the power of the municipalities to actually fund the funds necessary to create the affordable housing?
They're transferring that power to the community benefit charge.
And is our open door program, does it contain a big portion of the money that we actually collect through this charge?
It's a significant source of funding.
Will some of the projects that have been approved through the open door be at jeopardy because we cannot support them with the funds that we actually collect through development charges?
Well, I think it remains to be seen. There's certainly a transition period risk and then a long-term risk.
Okay. With regards to the projects that actually bring together development charges from different areas, so many projects, I have one in my area that will collect development charges in different phases to build a big community center and a big park. What is happening? What do we tell our communities?
We're waiting to see the particulars in the regulation.
Are all these projects in jeopardy?
I think until we know further, there are certainly some questions about what our next steps should be.
And I would add to the Speaker that the transition provisions will be essential to understand because, as Council knows, there a considerable amount of development in the pipeline. So,
But wasn't the purpose of this bill to
Counselor,
bring some certainty
Counselor, that was your
into
last,
this process?
that is,
Counselor, that was your last question?
I don't
yes, that's a stated intent of the bill.
Counselor Carroll.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. I'm not sure who answers this question. In the past, major bills coming for Bill 103 that created the city, in fact, you would have, before you proceeded with something that far-reaching and that permanent, you'd have a thing called a Queen's Park Standing Committee hearing. Has such a thing been contemplated for this bill?
Through the Speaker, no.
Do we have staff working on how we would go about requesting one, or is that a political request? Should politicians request that?
Through the Speaker, staff aren't currently working on that idea, so, but certainly if we were given direction, we could certainly assist.
Okay. Staff have been very thorough in the report. The Chief Planner's report really has every regulation request or advice or change that we would ask for within the recommendations. I'm grateful for those. So I want to talk about why we're asking for those. In inclusionary zoning, in terms of targeting it closer to transit stations, is there a need for this bill? Have we been bad at that? Am I living in a bubble at Don Mills and Shepherd and requesting that near my subway station?
Through the Speaker, there certainly have been occasions where we've been able to align, population density. You can witness that at many transit stations in the city. We have, I think, around 160 or 80 MTSAs.
Right.
Probably more than half of them meet minimum density standards or exceed them.
Or exceed them, yes.
Or exceed them.
Yeah.
So that is something that's kind of in our wheelhouse already. We look forward to being able to use, though, the inclusionary zoning tool both in MTSAs and outside of them, as we discussed last term and this term, to make our toolkit more powerful in achieving affordable housing.
Right. It's fair to say then, isn't it, that in terms of IZ or even the sort of the weaker tools we had before, they're recent. And so the minute we could put them in the pipeline, we put them in the pipeline. They're just not built out yet. But we as soon as we're given a tool, we use it here in the City of Toronto, don't we? We have the opportunity.
Certainly in a fast-growing city, we're anxious to be able to deploy any new tool that we can get our hands on.
But we want the flexibility. We also want to be able to apply that. If we have a large site that's a little further away, but it's still an area that has, historical height precedence and such, we want to be able to apply it even if we do get a little further away from the subway, if it makes sense, do we not?
Absolutely.
We need that tool. Section 37, your presentation outlines for us how we have things in 3 distinct buckets right now. And the proposal is to have, in Bill 108, there are 2 measures, and they're either or. You would either use one or the other, and things are no longer separate. Why in Bill 139 realm have we kept them separate? Why are there DCs and then 42 and then 37?
Through the Speaker, I'll start with Parks Levy. It's, goes back decades. You build, certainly in greenfield development across the province, you build communities with parks. I think it's a pretty well understood concept. Our issue in the city is we're building more intense communities, and we need to calibrate our parks dedication policies to be better in line with that intensity. And we're right on the threshold of producing that draft recommendation to planning and housing, actually, as this comes along. So that's one area that we have traditionally, and I think for good reason, treated separately. As second basket, the development charges. This is a citywide tool, calibrated on a per unit basis, based on a background study done every 5 years.
Right.
It's a key tool across municipalities to provide support for growth through that tool that is, by and large, a fair way of sharing the burden of growth.
Right.
Section 37, finally, basically a locally negotiated outcome specific to a development application. Really, it's a planning tool to actually address the local impact of that change. happening in that community. We've been able to successfully couple all three in a
Right.
way, even though they are very distinct tools, and they don't always apply to every situation.
So we'd lose that ability to have the city benefit citywide and apply some local impact. We'd lose that ability. Lastly,
Councillor, your time is up.
oh, sorry, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question of the Chief Planner. In your 35 years, have you seen anything as catastrophic as this to the City of Toronto or to any other city?
Through the Speaker, I won't use the word catastrophic with respect. This is a significant change to the rule book and planning in the way that we build the city and try to deal with the complex challenges that we have. It's in my experience, the most significant change.
So in your 35 years, you've never seen something as, let's say, dramatic of an impact on planning?
Through the Speaker, I'll go with dramatic, yes.
Okay, you accept dramatic. Okay, in terms of, one interesting thing about this bill, and I know you didn't have time, and I thank you for all the work your staff did on this, and I'm sure you're probably the only chief planner who's been able to do this, and with a gun to our heads here, thank you for doing that. In the middle of this bill, which I call the Developers Lottery Act, Bill 108, there's 19 pages that you didn't refer to, and that is the gutting of the Endangered Species Act, Schedule 5. There's a whole section of this bill. Is there any reason why you didn't refer to the gutting of the Endangered Species Act?
So through the Speaker, and I believe the City Manager addressed the conservation changes. There are, as I indicated in my presentation, we focused on the 4 pieces of legislation that bundled together deal with the planning file, so to speak. There are other acts that influence planning, certainly, and there are other consultation timelines that are associated with that, and there are staff reviewing those pieces of legislation and will be submitting comments on those. In the time we had, we focused on the 4.
I understand that. And in terms of the, in this bill here, I heard you correctly, basically by the changes of the employment lands in Toronto, this is going to cost Toronto 90,000 jobs.
Through the Speaker, what I identified is what we identified in an earlier report, that roughly a third of our employment lands, representing 180,000 jobs, will be open for parties, whether they be private or otherwise, to consider conversions. Normally, we deal with conversion requests through a municipal comprehensive review looking at all of the employment lands, and this creates 2 worlds where some are protected for the next municipal comprehensive review, and some, significantly a third of the city's employment lands, are not protected and essentially could be confronted with a conversion request earlier than we would normally anticipate.
Yes, and in terms of the financial impacts of this, and it's pretty hard to quantify, but obviously more the burden of paying for development is going to be on the backs of Toronto taxpayers. Is that not correct as a result of these changes?
Well, in the analysis of the financial implications section of the report, it does identify the challenge that if the revenue drops, the city can choose, number 1, not to provide that service or reach that service standard, or number 2, find another source of revenue, which could include taxes.
Okay, so there could be a significant tax impact to pick up that gap because the reduction of obligations developers will have to pay for their development impacts.
Again, in the report, we identify our concern that we're moving away from our normal path, which is that growth pays for growth, and we're moving into a situation where we may have to find other sources of revenue to pay for that growth.
So as this legislation stands right now, the obligations for the development industry to pay for their projects in all of our wards, and by the way, the one you mentioned here in my ward, at Lawrence and Dufferin, the park that was dedicated is still not a park. After 3 years that people have moved in, it's still contaminated and still not being used by the people. So I just wish you would maybe illustrate that in the next time you put that up. So, but basically the obligation for developers financially has been reduced, and the impacts could be passed over to Toronto taxpayers to pay for sidewalks, roads, daycare centers, parks.
Councillor, your time is up.
Yes, through the Speaker, the concern, again, our ability to be definitive about this is challenged with the lack of regulations, but our concern clearly in our understanding and plain reading of the legislation, that's our concern.
Thank you. Councillor Layton.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Just first on the development charges, I think this is probably for our Deputy City Manager. This is the DCs for Toronto Water. Hey, Lou, your antenna will go up a little bit. I'm just curious if you could perhaps reset the time just as people
So, through you, Madam Speaker, I appreciate the question, Councillor Layton. I was incorrect in a prior statement, so Lou can give you some further information in that regard.
Lou, how will this impact Toronto Water DCs?
Through you, Madam Speaker. At this point in time, we don't see any impact to the specific development charges that Toronto Water can charge for water, sewer, and storm. Though in Bill 108 there is some slight changes to approvals for sewers that they're piloting that we're looking at that could shift some liability on who's the owner, et cetera. But we're still assessing that. But dollar-wise right now, we don't see any specific change.
And so still on the line of DCs, existing approvals, but maybe this is a question for the Chief Planner, existing approvals that have not been constructed yet or that are under construction, are they still eligible to go back and put a new application in under the new rules?
Through the Speaker, the transition provisions have not been provided to municipalities. All I can say is if somebody's under construction, they've got a building permit, I hope, they paid their DCs. So for somebody who's under construction, I wouldn't think there's a concern. For someone sitting with a rezoning bylaw, a zoning bylaw amendment made 2 years ago, but they haven't pulled any permits yet, I can't answer your question.
But they could come back conceivably and come in for a new application where they would be applied the new rules for DCs, the new rules for community benefit, and whatever new rules for density we see that come from the province.
Again, through the Speaker, I think there's a transition issue there. Mr. DiGeronimo looks like he has an answer.
Through the Speaker, there are some issues that we have to examine with respect to timing, because with respect to my answer that I provided to you about the total dollar amount, there we don't see any changes. There are potential changes to when the money gets paid, so the timeline can change, and we're still examining that. So when development charges are payable are being looked at, and we're going to have to compare that against old applications versus new applications.
But there's, in that instance, it could be the city having to front the infrastructure money.
That's correct. It becomes kind of a form of financing. We would carry that cost. We would eventually recoup it, but we'd have to look at how long the time period and difference between having that money and building the infrastructure.
So just if I may, and I'm probably confusing the camera operator, back to the Chief Planner on the notion of every application any applicant could come back forward with a new application under the new rules if they just waited long enough.
So through the Speaker, I'm reminded that we have a specific recommendation about grandfathering or grandmothering. Recommendation 16, so a 3-year window. We are trying to address that point head on by not setting up a situation of a revolving door.
But under the existing proposed legislation, if a developer didn't get all they wanted or thinks they're paying too much for community benefit or DCs, they could potentially come in after the fact and get relief from that money that we've already put on our books.
Yeah, we don't see anything in the legislation that would prevent that, and that's why we've made a recommendation.
Can I just ask you, what's the percentage of applicants of applications that go to the LPAT or the OMB?
Through the speaker, I don't know if legal has a top-of-mind response to that.
So could someone give me an idea of what the backlog is at the LPAT?
The backlog is significant in terms of the number of units that are at the LPAT.
No, is it 3 years?
More than 30,000 units.
Is it safe to say that we settle or approve more than 50% of the applications?
I would say so, yes.
Much
higher.
Much higher. So right now there's a 3-year waiting period. How long would the waiting period be if the City of Toronto stopped approving applications?
Well, I would assume that it would get longer. The bill does include money for the LPAT to staff up, but while the funnel might get bigger, the amount going in the funnel will get larger.
I really hope that some developers are paying attention to this next question. Is there an appeal process if the city denies road occupancy permits?
I don't.
There is not.
Illegal?
Thank
I don't
you.
believe so, no.
Goodbye. Better get ready to develop on site.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to staff, I'm hunting through your report for any kind of reference to Section 45 benefits. I can't seem to find it. I'm just wondering whether that has changed in any way under this proposal.
Through the Speaker, there's nothing in the legislation that affects Section 45.
And when it comes to non-financial Section 37 benefits, in other words, we have a developer build a trail, build a daycare, build a stormwater management system. How can this legislation impact those kind of side agreements?
Through the Speaker, Section 37 manifests itself in many ways, as your question alludes to. Some are in kind and some are cash, but everything has a cash value and a cash equivalent. So our reading of the proposed legislation is that community benefits charge would assemble all of those values, whether they be cash or in kind, and roll them up with the DCs and the parks levy into one charge. So that's the difficulty really in how this new legislation works, is that you're dealing with quite distinct tools in the planning process.
Well, that's right. I mean, some of the applications in Ward 6, we've had them build a daycare, we've had them do stormwater management or sewer upgrades. We never really put a value on those benefits, but we made it as part of the agreement. I don't see how this could quash those side agreements, but maybe.
Well, again, some examples that you're using are the cost of development. So there's certainly stormwater, other matters that are required for the development under other sections of the Act. They, in our reading, won't be affected. It is anything that would be captured by a Section 37 or a DC, soft DC, would be affected.
The other thing I was hunting for is public art, and maybe I missed it. I don't see it in your report. How is the public art dedication affected by this legislation?
So through the Speaker, public art is part of our Section 37 menu, if you will, and that going forward would also have to be calibrated and included in any community benefits charge, because if we didn't, then we wouldn't be able to proceed with public art.
Now, we've touched on conversions today from employment lands to residential. Obviously, in the area I represent, the Bombardier lands are of concern, 350 acres that will be vacant probably in the next 3 years or so. How does a parcel like that, how is a parcel like that impacted with this legislation?
Through the Speaker, the Bombardier lands specifically are included in one of the provincially significant employment zones. So they would be considered in the context of the next municipal comprehensive review. The other important factor with Bombardier is that the lands are included in a secondary plan area. So we will have to develop a process that takes into account both the MCR and the existing secondary plan in looking at the future of those lands.
So I guess the legislation is tentatively called More Homes, More Choice Act, and yet in the last sentence of your report, you mentioned that Bill 108 does not provide any mechanisms to ensure that any savings from reduced development charges and Section 3742 Planning Act contributions are passed through to future buyers and renters. How is this more homes and more choice? It sounds like, less choice and less homes.
Through the Speaker, our concern is that there is no assurance in the legislation that any savings that may result are passed on to the actual occupants of homes in this city.
All right, so final question, I guess, is regarding POPs. And once again, I don't see them mentioned here, but are there any prohibitions to negotiating a POPs agreement?
POPs or publicly accessible private open space, part of our normal planning process. Whether or not that gets conflated with the community benefits charge, that's something that we'll have to work out. That's the best answer I've got for you with the amount of information that we've got today.
Putting a value on POPs is no easy task.
It's potentially
Thank
an
you.
issue.
Thank you.
Councillor Fillion?
Thank you, and first of all, thank you for not only a thorough report on a short timeline, but a really intelligent one. So you've talked about the need for livable communities and the requirements under the growth plan for complete communities, and how we may lose that ability. So to the extent that we lose that ability, will that make many of our applications not good planning just because, or premature because we no longer have the tools to create those complete communities?
So through the Speaker, that is certainly a good summary of a major concern, that we often forget that there's a population growth part of the puzzle and an infrastructure growth part of the puzzle. And we do planning frameworks in high growth areas to connect those two, so that when we're growing at a certain pace, we're bringing online the parks, the community centers, the daycares, the other services. If we can't give advice to council that there's a good, strong connection and a good, reasonable expectation that those two can be conjoined, at least at some part in the future, maybe it's in the capital budget, then I presume we will struggle more often with having to come to you and say it's good planning. And that's the fundamental problem with delinking that is in the legislation.
So might we need to link them again with holding provisions that we would approve the one part, but if the other part doesn't exist, we'll just have to say you can't build the first part until we have the ability to provide the complementary infrastructure and services.
Through the Speaker, yes, that is a tool we use today when we have this problem, and I could foresee using it more often in the future.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fillion. Councillor Nunziata has questions.
Yes, thank you. So, on your chart, 144,000 units that the city approved yet to be built. So, do we know how long ago these applications have been approved and why they're sitting without being built? Is there a reason? Do you know? Like, have there been years or?
Through the Deputy Speaker, this represents I believe it's a five-year window looking back. So it's roughly, I believe, a 2013, 2018 statistic. 2013 to 2018 statistic. We don't know specifically why an individual owner might choose to get a rezoning but not build, and I think those circumstances, in fairness to landowners, could vary between, it's not their business model, they don't have an investor, There's lots of reasons why people get a rezoning and don't build, but maybe the market isn't there to sell the units yet. So we can speculate on why, but the fact remains that we have that we do approve a lot in this city that does not get built.
And the 167,000 units currently under review is the reason as well is that we don't have enough resources to review these applications?
This is just a broad set of statistics that represent our pipeline. These statistics are always moving, and at any one time, the city is approving around 17,000 units a year, and actually under construction, probably around 15,000 units a year. And it's a moving number. A direct line to whether or not we have enough staff or not enough staff is, I can't make that direct relationship.
Well, I've been told in Etobicoke that the reason they're not being processed is that they don't have enough planners. So that's why I'm asking the question. If there's an issue, then we should be addressing those issues. Inclusionary zoning, limited to certain locations. Can you expand a bit on that? Where there's transit improvements, can you just expand a bit on that?
So through the Speaker, the previous legislation introduced inclusionary zoning and our ability to use it all over the city. This legislation restricts the use of inclusionary zoning to areas around major transit stations, roughly 500 to 800 meters away. So the actual geography of where we can use inclusionary is less than it was under the previous legislation. And our concern is that we don't want to be fettered by our circumstances in Toronto, that certainly there's a good logic to having inclusionary zoning at major transit station areas. That makes sense.
Right.
But it also might be a good tool for other areas of the city which could use some affordable housing.
Okay, questions to parks. So, as far as Parkland dedication, and can you tell me that with all the parks and that are coming forward with new developments, and there's hundreds of them. In some areas we have a lot of parkland, but yet we're building more parks. Do we have the operating cost to maintain these parks once they're dedicated?
So through the Speaker, we do go through a process with financial planning and preparation for each budget in a multi-year budgeting format where we look at the capital projects we have and what we call the operating impacts of supporting that capital, and we put forward various budgets for those new operations annually. So as an example, if we opened a community center, there would be an increased budget requirement for it. A large park opening would also have the same, depending on the size and structure.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, the existing parks that we have, are we not maintaining the existing parks that we have because we have more parks that we have to maintain, and we're told that we don't have enough resources to maintain our existing parkland?
Through the Speaker, we have, over the last several years, given the budget pressures we're under, tried to limit the operating impacts of capital as much as possible so that we spread out the existing operating staff that we have.
So is there an opportunity there to have a public and private partnership in some of these new parks?
Through the Speaker, that's something we would have to look to our labor management folks about and look to the provisions within the collective agreement around how we would do some of those things. We do have a number of active volunteer groups that support parks and parks cleanup and environmental pieces and the rest, as you likely know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Prusa, you're next.
Thank you so much. I've been sitting here trying to understand why. Like, can you give us any idea as to why these changes and why now?
Through the Speaker, speculative question, so I can only give you a speculative answer. But it certainly, I said in my presentation that clearly we've heard from the province, and I think we share the broad goal of providing housing for Torontonians. So that's an overall motivation, and we've been busy here at the city in various ways upping our game on addressing housing needs in the city that are unique to the city, especially with the number of affordable housing units that we need to produce. So that broadly speaking, that is what we've heard from the province. You can read in the preamble to the bill a number of specific intents around their view that increasing the supply alone will, and speeding up the approvals process, will advance the interest of building more housing. They have also indicated that transparency in the planning process and predictability are important factors, again, which we share, and given time to work with the province, we would welcome, always making improvements to the planning process.
So, but you're saying that from a City of Toronto perspective, we haven't coming online of new housing or the building of new housing, we haven't slowed it down anyway. I read your statistics here, and it says between 2002 and 2017, 226,000 new units have been built. Units that have received approvals, 144,000 yet to be built, and currently reviewing another 167,000. So to say that this is about building new housing, I mean, 144,000 new units have been approved, haven't been built. Sounds like it's not slowing it down.
Through the Speaker, our submission is that this council does approve a lot of housing every year. Whether or not it gets built is the prerogative of individual landowners. But we do keep the pipeline well fed. We have a significant need in this city for housing, and we share that goal. It's really how that manifests itself, whether we have the financial tools to make sure we build livable communities, and whether or not the planning outcomes result in achieving our official plan objectives.
So let me go back to my first question. So you've had no conversations whatsoever with the provincial, anyone at the province saying, look, we got a real problem here. Too much stickum. Developers are getting stuck through this process. They can't get their projects off the ground. You're charging them way too much money for things like community benefits or park space. So therefore, we need to change the rules here to make it a little easier, because just simply there's all these construction workers who are unemployed. They need jobs. We need new construction. You guys are slowing it down. Nobody's communicated that to you, right?
So through the Speaker, the province has held consultations with thematic consultations with the industry, with municipalities in the province, with community organizations. I have attended, and our staff have attended some of those consultations. They were broad thematic consultations. Some of the issues that you raised, whether it be anyone's notion of red tape, the speed of approvals, the transparency and predictability of the process, the cost of the process, those issues were all spoken to by various perspectives around the table. We certainly spoke to our planning goals around achieving livable communities and our need to fund the infrastructure. But there have been no specific consultations on the specific nature of this legislation, and we did not see the specific nature of the legislation prior to its introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My questions, I believe, will start with the Chief Planner and may be augmented by the Chief Financial Officer and others. When we receive planning reports at community council and here, preliminary reports and final reports, there's a little section that says financial implications, and it's always really short, or it's usually really short. It just says, you know, there's no financial implication of adopting this report because it's a policy. If Bill 108 goes through, are you able to do that anymore? Just have one line, or would you now be on the hook to give us the financial implications of a decision? Because just the preface of this report talks about, you know, there could be additional charges that are now shifted to the taxpayer as opposed to the developer.
Through the Speaker, you're quite right. The use of the financial implications section in our reports is quite rote. We do not attach it to a program or capital implication typically. I think in some of our larger applications we have built in a larger financial implication statement. Certainly some of our large revite sites have financial implication sections. I think moving forward, as I indicated to Councillor Fillion, our concern is that if we cannot recommend a project to Council and assure Council that there is a financial tool aligned with our recommendation on that increased population, then we may in fact have to revisit the way we give Council advice about the financial implications of rezonings.
It should come as no surprise to you, because I'm sure you've heard it as well, that many times residents will wave a fist at a development saying they don't like it or it's too aggressive, and they say, you just do it, Councillor, because you just want to get more taxes out of that and grow the city. And you know, could this sort of fit that narrative that, you know, we will get potentially developments across the community council and council floor if everything goes through as it is suggested in your report, that council really will be on the hook to fill that financial gap, because those DCs, as we understand it, won't cover all of the things that we had relied on them to cover before, and there may be some other gaps because of the timing and the application. And so by approving a particular development, council also has to come up with some sort of a plan to fund the other costs associated with the development. So there's a real cost to this thing. I don't know how we would be able to, in good conscience, make an approval and not have a financial plan to meet that approval.
Through the Speaker, I would say that that's a good summary of our concern.
In the report, you talked about the city acting as a bank, and I wondered if you could explain that a little bit better to me. I understand there are some milestone dates that are potentially different on when we would collect development charges and have to essentially float those charges. Could you, in a few seconds, just help me understand that just a bit better? It's a bit financial nerdy, and I need a bit of basic understanding on how that works.
I'll hand that to our resident financial nerd.
In the deepest of respect, of course.
Through the chair, the collection of DCs in the past has always been that you would establish the amount payable and make the payment at the same time. In this case, with this legislation, the date at which the amount payable would be determined would be advanced, or in many cases, to a planning trigger, such as a site plan application or a zoning application, and in some cases that could advance the calculation of the amount payable by years. At the same time, for many developments, they have added a feature where the payment date could be deferred until a 5-year amortization period after occupancy. So the payment in those cases would be deferred for another 6-8 years. So what they're introducing is a big timing difference between the calculation of how much is due and when you pay it. And they have indicated that there'd be some compensation to the municipality through an interest rate set by regulation. But our concern, of course, is that that interest rate would not reflect the market value of a construction financing, and that it might undermine the city's
Understood. In order to raise any gaps, financial gaps that come through a development proposal, would we have to look at other tools, special levies, special tax classes,
Counselor,
changing of our
that's your last
services
question.
to utility-based rates or different financial models, would that be fair to say that it's fairly radical in our finances?
Your last question.
Well, I would say in this particular issue regarding to the timing of calculation and payment, it's likely to require the city to self-finance works for at least a period of time. And also it may delay, the transition may delay the actual applications and while they're waiting to see how this all plays out. So there could be a cost that ultimately gets picked up on the tax base.
Thank you. Councillor Karygiannis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to staff, good morning, and thank you for a detailed analysis of what's about to hit us. Mr. Linder, you said this, you didn't want to use the word catastrophic. However, I would beg to differ and ask you please use the word catastrophic. In my area, Scarborough Agincourt, we're looking around anywhere between 15 to 20,000 new apartment units that will be coming. How will this new bill reflect on our ability to be able to add parkland, community space, recreational space, and also new schools? I mean, in one area, I'm getting right now in the pipeline something like about 13 towers at 300 units apiece. That would be something like about 4,000, 5,000 units, and 1/3 of them would be units will have 2 and 3 bedrooms. That means that we're going to have need for new schools. When you have 2 or 3 bedrooms, you obviously have a youngster that will be coming around, or you're expecting a youngster. Therefore, I was wondering how do you see that affecting not only us, but also the Toronto and the separate school board?
Through the Speaker, it's just a general reflection on your question. The question sums up the overall concern that we've got with planning the city and bringing forward necessary community infrastructure to sustain and grow our livable, socially responsive communities. We, right now, approve a lot of development in the city, and we bring alongside in lockstep a whole suite of community infrastructure, be it community centers, parks, pools, and arts facilities, and a long, long list. By delinking and not assuring us that we can continue to plan in that way, then the types of development that you're witnessing in your ward could be entirely different places and perhaps much less desirable places to live if they don't have that full suite of community infrastructure with them.
But it's not only going to be in my ward, but everywhere else.
Every other fast-growing part of the city.
At the end of the day, because we are the ones that look after buildings and putting houses up and putting condos up, the people of Toronto, once we don't have that infrastructure in order to, and the amenities in order to support where they live, they will turn around and blame the city versus actually blaming and putting the finger on the province that is causing us not to be able to provide them those amenities. Would I be correct in that?
Through the Speaker, we rely on a legislative framework to achieve balanced growth. Whether people blame, where they go to blame is their business. But from our perspective, from staff's perspective, we want to be able to recommend good quality, complete communities so that the amount of blaming that goes on after the fact is substantially reduced.
Well, okay, that's a political question, so I'm not going to try to involve staff in it. But at the end of the day, when we don't have the money in order to do this and the developers do not come up with the money, that's a developer, as Councillor Cole called it, it's a developer's lottery you win. So where we're going to be able to get this money and where we're going to be able to get the ability in order to build these facilities, I guess at the end of the day, we'll have to look at new ways of taxing people, increase our levy.
And again, through the Speaker, growth, we go by the principle of growth, paying for growth. That's why we have the suite of tools that we have. If that suite of tools operates differently and is not revenue neutral, then we have a service standard issue. We have to lower our services or adjust our services, or we have a revenue problem. We need more revenue to sustain those services.
How much money are you estimating that we would lose because we will not be able to levy those charges and get that money from the developers? How much money will we need to come up with?
Yeah, through the Speaker, in the report, we've hesitated to give you a bottom line answer because of our lack of information around the regulations. What we've given you is a broad understanding of where we're exposed, the types of services where we're exposed, the amount of money where we're exposed. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars that are outlined in the report, and without further information, it's difficult for us to be more specific.
In your estimate, if we're, let's say, what is coming down the pipeline, if we're able to get $100 million, what would we be able to charge now? What percentage can we expect that we able to charge 20, 30 million? I mean, I'm just looking for a guesstimate of the percentage that we can charge versus what we were going to be able to charge.
Through the Speaker, because of the nature of the regulations and the lack of information, I'm unable to give you an answer.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a couple of questions. I wanted to ask specifically about the TTC. As you know, recently we've had a report indicating we have a $33.5 billion challenge over the next 15 years on capital and maintenance. That does not include expansion, the $33.5 billion. So what I want to understand today is how would this potentially impact the TTC's funding?
Through the chair, the development charges for transit are unaffected other than, as I earlier outlined, in terms of timing of calculation of the obligation and timing of payment.
So would there be, though, the potential of, now that there's so many needs, a potential of having to spread the funding that's limited now, spreading it thin, and would that impact over time the TTC?
Well, I think there's sort of a transitional risk where development applications could slow down while we're waiting for all of these issues to be resolved. And then there's the long-term risk about how the actual act and the regulations will affect revenue. And those uncertainties could certainly put the city in a position of deciding whether it would continue to spend at the same rate.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask Lou a question, and I've asked him this before at committee. Yonge and Eglinton, a very densely populated, if not the most densely populated urban growth centre in the greater Golden Horseshoe, as many of us know. You know, we've talked a lot about infrastructure today. I bring it up at every public meeting, as do residents, but let's get as basic as water and pumping water up to the top of these towers and some of the cost implications for the city.
Through you, Madam Speaker, with respect to, and specifically the Midtown area, what we identified is there's a need to upgrade the services in that area from a water and sewer perspective. So there's upsizing of water mains that are required in order to meet not just the population growth, but also fire flow regulations to provide sufficient flow to deal with high-rise structures in that area. Sewers, we need to upgrade the sewers to handle the additional sewage that will come, as well as stormwater pipes. We've got those projects identified, and they're within Toronto Water's capital program as growth-related. The potential implications that we see right now, you heard about the timing and phasing issues that we're trying to understand. Right now, we're forecasting to receive a certain amount of revenue from development charges at a certain rate per year. If there are delays with respect to when we get those monies, I don't perceive there will be delays in when that infrastructure needs to be built. So Toronto Water will have to find a way to finance the building of that infrastructure. It's either going to have to use its reserve, which will draw it down more quickly, and or borrow, which we've never done in Toronto Water, as we have a pay-as-you-go model, or change the capital program over the 10-year, and I'm crowding out the state of good repair funding. So those are all different options that would need to be explored, all based on the changing revenue stream you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. And to the Chief Planner, our guest from the United Nations at Planning and Housing Committee said the day before on CP24, but also I believe at the committee, she talked about the housing supply and stock. She indicated there isn't an issue with that. It's the type of stock and affordable housing. So, but she said big picture, there's not an issue. Would you concur with that comment?
Through the speaker, yes, we provided statistics that demonstrate that we have a robust pipeline that we feed every year with approvals. I think the issue more in Toronto is around affordability and our particular need across a spectrum of need. Much of that need will not be addressed by the market and requires a fairly elaborate program all the way from municipal shelters, TCH, Open Door, Housing Now, all the different initiatives that we're underway with to address aspects of housing need that are not addressed by the market and won't be addressed by the market.
Okay, but that issue certainly is clear. I mean, that's council's addressing it. But the big picture is there is not a housing supply shortage or a stock issue in Toronto. I mean, because this title indicates otherwise on this Bill 108. So,
our submission is that it's more a question of matching our particular needs in the city, and the supply approach alone will not solve that problem.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perks.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm going to start with a question to the city solicitor. Right now, we're mired in a lengthy hearing on the regulations we brought in around Airbnb.
Through you, Madam Speaker, yes, that's correct.
The Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing has a legal tool available to him called a ministerial zoning order.
Through you, Madam Speaker, that's correct. The short-term rental accommodation bylaw is a zoning bylaw, and the minister does have zoning authority.
So if the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing wanted to create 6,000 rental units in the City of Toronto tomorrow, he could pass a ministerial zoning order which effectively puts the Airbnb or short-term rental bylaw that we had into effect.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm not familiar with the number of units currently being used for Airbnb-type purposes. However, the minister does have the authority to pass what's called a ministerial zoning order that would trump a city zoning bylaw.
Thank you. To the Chief Planner, I have a development proposal that's working its way through on a site at Dundas and Bloor. It's a large site. In our current planning framework, the City of Toronto is able to allocate that a large part of the community benefit must be affordable housing on that site. Does that large site policy get impacted in any way by the proposed changes in front of the provincial legislature right now?
The approach that the city's been taking is to apply the large site policy that we have in our official plan. The actual effect of Bill 108, hard to speculate. I believe that we are already trying to move away from the large site policy toward an inclusionary zoning approach.
I understand that, but I'm asking, like this, they've already filed for their official plan amendments, so they're under the current rules if they continue down that road.
I would suggest that it's highly dependent on the transition provisions, where both the parks, the affordable housing, other community infrastructure involved in making a complete community on that site may be in jeopardy depending on the way the transition provisions are written for the new legislation. If they take us back in time, then maybe the new rules will apply to that site.
And under the new rules, we lose the ability to use Section 37, which is the tool we use in the large sites, to guarantee a percentage of be spent on affordable housing. Our current rules do that. The proposed rules do not.
The proposed rules would have us assemble all of the so-called community benefits or community facilities, including affordable housing, accumulate them all, and collect them all up, 37, 42 soft ACs, create, after we do a strategy.
After we do a strategy.
After we do a citywide strategy, which may have local aspects. There's a number of dominoes that have to fall first, and we would come back to the question of a before and after judgment. If we evaluated that application today under the existing legislation and we are able to check all these boxes, both planning and financial. Are we going to be able to check all those boxes, planning and financial, in the new rules?
So would it be fair to say that the application for the OPA on that site, we have a tool in hand that would guarantee affordable housing? But if the applicant looks at the new rules and says to themselves, you know what, I'm going to reapply under the new rules, we have uncertainty instead of certainty.
I would say that that would be a concern on that site and many other sites.
So this puts some affordable housing, which we have certainty around, at risk.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thinking about the same site, they haven't come in yet for their zoning bylaw because there's a lot of complexity around it. When on a large site, to do a zoning review, we would up front charge a considerable amount in planning fees. Application
Through the Speaker, per square meter charge on zoning and site plan, yes, considerable on a site like that.
Considerable, like in the ballpark it. Order of magnitude.
You could be $1 to $2 million.
$1 to $2 million. If, because this site is near what the provincial government refers to as a major transit service or station area, and we are put through a development permit system on those sites, are we able to charge the applicant fees up front to do that planning work?
That was your last question?
So a few years, through the Speaker, a few years ago, when we brought forward an official plan amendment for development permit system, and which is at the LPAT under appeal, we did, I believe, canvass that issue, and my view would be that we would have to still operate on a cost recovery basis going forward. So even if we had a new planning system, we would still be interested in evaluating the cost of administering that planning system and passing those costs on to the applicant. I think it's a fairly general answer, but my ambition would be that we remain whole.
Thank you. To speak, Mayor Tory.
Madam Speaker, thank you. First of all, I should say that I believe Councillor Bailão is going to move a motion at the end of the debate today that I hope will take into account a number of the points that have been made in what has been a very enlightening and excellent both question period and discussion that's been happening. You know, it's of interest to me that you know, in this time that I've been in this job, there are many criticisms that we hear about things, but if you looked at some of the ones that are most prevalent, I guess maybe the single most prevalent one, aside from concerns about traffic, would be that we, the city government as a whole, over time, has allowed too much development to take place without the accompanying necessary infrastructure, social infrastructure, you know, neighborhood infrastructure, and so on. A second criticism that I think has almost risen to first place in the last couple of years, certainly during the election campaign, from my reckoning, is that yes, indeed, we have lots of housing being built in the city, but there's a huge sort of gap that's missing for people in the middle, you know, people who are in need of what we call affordable housing. There has been a third criticism, and I'm only giving a partial list because we all know what they are, that we have collected a lot of money over time, but that we haven't invested it. We haven't invested it in a timely fashion. And we hear that from a number of quarters, and I think there's actually some merit to this. But I think the real bottom line and the biggest concern that I have, and I'm only going to speak to it at this level, and others will speak about some of the other aspects to this, is that what you have happening here through this process as it now appears, and that's a process that says you introduce a bill with very little advance consultation, certainly not with us, and with the publics that we represent, and it's a bill that brings about fundamentally important changes to planning, to municipal finance, to housing, and to other aspects of social and infrastructure policy, you know, without any discussion whatsoever. In some respects, it's actually worse because, you know, you can deal with a year-to-year budget, sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Debate that we're having now. But you can deal with that because next year there'll be a different budget. But these are long-term changes, huge changes that have huge implications, and I think they have huge implications financially for us. And what's of real concern is the fact that they have allowed for 30 days on these fundamentally important planning, all social, financial, municipal finance matters, 30 days of consultation, and as Councillor Carroll pointed out, no other legislative body where, and they've had a habit, this government so far, I must say, of actually having major bills, including the one that affected the size of this council, with no legislative hearings at all. I mean, I remember the days when I served at Queen's Park both as an assistant to Premier Davis and as an MPP, and the notion that you would have a major piece of legislation with no legislative hearings was, I mean, you wouldn't have even thought about it. So instead, we get these things left largely, if you look at the bill and the report, we've had an excellent report, I should say, that I'm very proud of the work done by our city staff, as we are so often. But you have a lot of these decisions being made, worst of all, not even beyond the fact that you can't have a legislative body to go talk to a decent consultation period, made in secret cabinet meetings. And I say secret, they've always been secret. But, you know, when you come down here and you have experience working in this government that is so transparent, and where there are no secret meetings by and large, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, the same as the balanced budget. It actually isn't such a bad requirement that they put on you when it's all said and done. These huge decisions are going to be left, as the chief planner pointed out, to regulations passed in secret with no consultation. And so what do you get? Well, you get the net result of dramatically reduced funding available to provide for precisely the infrastructure we are criticized for not putting in place concurrent with development: transit, childcare, community facilities, and most importantly, I would argue, and this is why Councillor Bylow's questions were so important, affordable housing, because that's what some of this money is using for, and then the public are correctly telling us, make sure that infrastructure accompanies the development. They agree with the proposition that they wouldn't put it in these words, that growth should pay for growth. Secondly, you have the prospect through this law at the very same time that more development will be allowed. And so you get, in some respects, the worst possible combination. More development, which in and of itself may not necessarily in every case be a bad thing, but more development and less ability to provide for the infrastructure that is needed to make sure that, as was pointed out in the presentation again, as people live more and more in tall buildings, they need a backyard. They need a place to go that might be a library or a community centre that takes back. So make no mistake, I think what this amounts to, and I'll conclude on this note, is, taken as it would appear from what we know, an even bigger financial cutback for the city at the end of the day in a long-term way for really important infrastructure as opposed to day-to-day operating costs than even the budgetary debate that we're having right now. And I just think that the most easily understood examples of that are the discussion that was had by Ms. Romoff with regard to parks, and secondly, the childcare, 12 centres, 500 spaces gone, and thirdly, affordable housing, the #1 priority of the people, which I think the questions from the Deputy Mayor brought out very well. So to me, I would think at very least, and Councillor Bylaw will have a number of recommendations, it starts with proper consultation, meaningful consultation, places we can go, and I believe we will be in common cause, and that's what my questions were devoted to with the Chief Planner, with the other cities. I can't believe we won't be in a very common front, but I just don't know if anybody will listen. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. We do have a question for you. Councillor Kirtianis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to the Mayor, would you be able to provide us, sir, a list of things that you have done and meetings that you had with the Premier in order to avoid this, or were you caught out of the blind and you were not aware of this was coming down the pipeline?
I should say, through you, Madam Speaker, that I think whether it's me or whether it's the Deputy Mayor or others, I've had meetings with the Minister of Housing. I went to see him and he came to see me. I think that the problem here is not that we haven't been making an effort, if that's the implication of the question. The problem has been that, they don't want to listen, and that they don't seem to have taken into account, in this case, the fact that we have a rapidly growing city with lots of development taking place, lots of housing being built for that matter. It's just not the housing that
some of that is in my ward.
Maybe I could just finish the answer, and I'll finish quickly. Not the kind of housing we necessarily need for the marketplace taken as a whole, and that this notion that they're going to speed up housing it's not necessarily the housing that we need in total, and secondly, that it is going to impair our ability to provide, even if you do speed up housing, the infrastructure we need. So we've made those points of view known.
How far back were you aware, Mayor, that this was coming in our way? When did they first tell you that this was going to happen?
They never told me anything. I mean, they said publicly that they were going to make some changes to the planning process. They've said that over the last couple of months.
So
I've had meetings with the minister. I've had meetings with the premier since that time. But if you said, did they lay out for me what they were going to do by way of affecting municipal finance in this way? Absolutely not. Not even a hint of it. And
When you met with the minister or the premier, did they hint at that this was coming?
They said they were going to be making changes to planning. That was said publicly, but they didn't give me any hints, just as was the case with the transit plan. I mean, you know, we literally found out the night before on the transit plan what they were going to do, and even then it was incomplete information. And on the council, as you know, we found out the night before. So there was no detailed briefing that I had, I can assure you, or even a series of questions that would lead you to believe it was going to be exactly like this. The broad parameters of what they were talking about, sort of trying to speed up things, was said publicly in the newspaper, but there was nothing added to that in the meetings that we had with them.
You know, going back, council, transportation on this one, this shows a disrespect from the province to the city. It shows a disrespect to you, or maybe a vendetta against you, and we don't get this information. I mean,
you know,
what is there needs to be done in order to change that that thought in the province, or from us to them? Like, I mean, it seems to be there's no coordination, no working relationship. They're ignoring us, and they're just telling us to take a flying leap over the lake.
Well, I know
why is
you're
it?
Madam Speaker, through you to the member, you're very fond of saying it somehow shows a disrespect for me. I think it shows as much disrespect for you and all the members of council and of cities generally across the province. This is this is where your argument with respect falls down about this being some personal thing. First of all, I said in the media in response to your
You're the head of the city,
members'
though.
assertions.
You represent the city. You
Councillor,
go to those
please
meetings.
allow
We
the
don't come
mayor
along.
to...
I said yesterday, in response to the assertions made by the member that this was a personal thing, it's not personal for me. Not one iota of my view on this. It's all based on sound public policy and what's best for the City of Toronto. And I guess if it was a personal thing, how come, and this is part of why I asked the question...
We're not invited to those meetings, Mayor.
Councillor, please allow the mayor to answer.
How come, if it's so personal and if I'm being disrespected or whatever it is you say, how come they're also disrespecting all the other mayors and all the other cities in Ontario? And how come the budgetary provisions that we're talking about here also apply to all the other cities in Ontario? And that's where you should give your head a shake and be deciding that you're going to stand up for the City of Toronto, stand up for the City of Toronto. Pardon me?
You don't invite us to those meetings.
Oh,
you go all by yourself.
come on.
You know what?
Come to visit.
Madam Speaker, through you, if I thought it would achieve anything except possibly a negative result to do that, I would do that. And there are people that we may well end up. I would hope they'd provide us with the opportunity to have some representatives of the City of Toronto, whether it be public service staff or councillors, to sit down and discuss the budget and discuss these changes. And that's exactly what I said we were asking for. Proper, meaningful consultation where they actually listen. And I said on TV the other day, when it comes to the budget, Madam Speaker, I don't care if they invite the man on the moon to represent the City of Toronto, if they only would agree to have meaningful discussions about the budget, and I'd say the same about this bill, then I would be happy. And if they choose you to go up and have those meaningful consultations, then at least it'll be better than what we seem to have today. So...
Oh, dear. Councillor, just rewind the tape. Councillor Matlow.
Madam Speaker, I have two motions. One, in reference to what the Mayor was saying about the importance of municipalities and the GTHA working together. I want to commend Mayor Maracas and the OMB Reform Working Group that have done a remarkable job at making sure that all municipalities are speaking with one voice. And this really is sort of in complement to the city staff recommendations and all the respective councils, whether it be Cambridge, Richmond Hill, I spoke with Mayor Crombie, others across the GTHA want to speak with one voice, and many of those ridings where those municipalities are may have more influence over the Premier than others. The other motion is actually staff have requested that this be part of it because it's in their summary in their report, but it's not a recommendation. This is an additional recommendation essentially to ensure that there is predictability in our 10-year, our long-term capital plans to make sure that there is a better way, if they are going to be moving to a community benefits charge model, that it be done in a way that follows the individual in the unit rather than the unpredictable fluctuation in land value, which is not a good way to ensure that we provide the basic infrastructure and services that communities rely on in every part of the city. What we are seeing in Bill 108, colleagues, is nothing less than a transfer of costs for basic services such as parks and childcare and libraries and recreation centres from the development industry to the taxpaying residents of Toronto and the City of Toronto itself. We rely on infrastructure and services to support a great quality of life in our communities, and this should be about community planning rather than supporting the development industry's profit margin. The Chief Planner said very clearly earlier, Bill 108 does not provide any tools to create more affordable housing. This is a government that in the same year withdrew all rental guidelines, rent guidelines to protect tenants in any new units here in Ontario. This is not about affordable housing. This is about the affordability of developers working in our area. It is also a dysfunctional piece of legislation. It essentially triggers an appeal in most cases. Mr. Lintern said very clearly that it is not practical to expect that our planning staff are able to write up reports within the 90 days prescribed, rather than allowing them a reasonable amount of time to be able to deliver the report to Council for their consideration. It essentially subsidizes. We are subsidizing as a city the cost of growth. We need pipes, we need electricity, we need school capacity. But if you go to Yonge and Eglinton, for example, now, you will see signs from the Toronto District School Board making it very clear that if you are a family moving into the neighborhood, your kid may not even be able to go to the local school. That's just bad planning. That's not acceptable, and the Ford government should not be making it worse. This also puts heritage in jeopardy as well. This makes it completely unpredictable whether or not we're going to be able to move forward with our plans to be... Madam Speaker, if you could pause my time just for a moment. I'm just having a little trouble hearing because of the conversation going on.
Councillor Perks. Councillor Perks. Who's yelling back there? The media?
Thank you.
Okay.
This threatens our ability to preserve the remains of our cultural and architectural heritage in this city, which we have not done a good enough job on in the past, but we have a remarkable heritage planning staff who are moving forward with innovative tools in the future to be able to do a better job. I want to thank, by the way, Greg Lintern, Chief Planner Lintern, and his staff, all of whom you see here, all of whom are deeply concerned and are sitting here in the chambers today. There are many reasons why when I am no longer a city councilor, I will look back and appreciate and be grateful for the time that I was here to serve the community that I love. But there are no group of people who I feel more privileged to be working with than our planning staff. They want our communities to have a great quality of life. They want to plan in a way that it's not just about yes to growth or no to growth, but it's to ensure that growth leaves the place better than it found it. That we have great schools, we have great child care, we have affordable housing, we have infrastructure to support their quality of life. A kid should be able to go to their local school, and at the very least, you should be able to predict that the water is going to come out of your tap or your toilet's going to flush. That's what planning's all about. It's about making sure that our communities work. This is a handover of the planning process to the development industry and their lobbyists. We need to push back, we need to say no, and at the very least, we need to have reasonable time to be able to review the legislation and the draft regulations before they are enacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I had motions I wanted to move, but instead what I've done is hand them to the Chair of Planning. I think the Mayor is right. I think we have to have common cause now. And we have to get behind our leaders. Whether we like it or not, we actually don't get invited to go and sit in the Premier's office along with the Mayor. Otherwise, if he could, he'd take all 25 of us every single time. That's just not how it works. Absolutely. He would have been happy to take 44 or 47, but that's not how it works. And so when we know we're sending our leaders, we better be behind them. We better back them. At a time like this, we have to. We're not talking about something that might make it difficult to do our jobs for the amount of time that we are elected. When you start fundamentally messing with the Planning Act and the 13 other acts of legislation, environmental safety, when you start messing with all of these in a bill, you're talking about something that's going to affect our grandchildren. And so we better find common cause, and we better get on it. I was frustrated all day yesterday that this report wasn't ready, and now I'm glad we waited. It was worth waiting for, Mr. Lintern. It is so thorough. The presentation is one I can easily use now so that my community can understand what's at stake for them. And then what will they do? Well, at the moment, they can't do a damn thing. There's no consultation. There is no Queen's Park Standing Committee public hearing on something this major. That is unheard of. The mayor's already told you, and his knowledge of this sort of system goes back to the 70s. Just in the very last term, when they did the OMB reform, they had a Queen's Park Standing Committee public hearing on it. They also had consultation out in communities. They went to the far north, in fact. They went everywhere they needed to go to make one simple change to the appeal part of planning. But now we're fundamentally changing planning itself. And when I say we should be having that hearing at Queen's Park, I know that the developers will all line up. They'll all line up. They'll demand slots, and knowing the slant of this bill, the government will give them as many slots as they can. So they'll speak to those regulations. If you are going to make amendments before third reading, these ones, don't change these. But we've got to be able to speak to the ones that we know we need changes on. They're all outlined in the recommendations that the Chief Planner has provided for us. I was up all night reading those recommendations, as we all were, because they are so thorough. But we've got to be able to speak to those, and it should be done in an official room, where the official opposition is there to question as well. And as for public consultation, we have a duty now to inform our communities about what's at stake. That's why we're all scheduling town halls, and we've got the tools now with this presentation to go out and give those presentations. Mr. Lintern is making himself available in as many places as possible. But then our community has to have their ability to speak as well, not just to us, but to the government, to tell them what's at stake. Because Mayor Tory is right. On every development, what you'll hear is real concern that we're not building enough infrastructure to meet the demands of the density we're putting in. I represent most of Line 4, all but one station on Line 4. And what I'm living through there, you'll see it all along Eglinton and all the way along the subway route that's being built in Scarborough, if and when, because they're now messing with that as well without consultation. But all along those routes, the concern will be that there's not enough infrastructure there to meet it. And instead of enhancing that, we're now hampering it. And the community has to have the ability to reflect those concerns to the government. Not marching to a constid office and having the lights turned out and the door locked so that you can't talk to anyone, but an official consultation, a hearing where they can have a voice and we can send our leaders to help them with it. This is a time for leadership and community voice, and that's why I added to the chair's motion those components. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Bradford.
Thanks very much, Madam Speaker. Bill 108 dropped on us on May 2nd, so I would like to echo the thoughts that we've heard and commend the city staff, our chief planner and others, all the staff here, for the tremendous amount of thoughtful work that they put forward in this report. I also read this eagerly last night, and happy to say I'll be supporting all 38 recommendations that our staff are coming forward with. They're smart and they're thoughtful. I'll also be supporting the motions that we have in front of us from Councillor Matlow and the motions that Councillor Baila will be bringing forward shortly. In particular, I want to highlight something that the staff did a great job of calling out in the report, and that's identifying the estimated $924 million impact on our 10-year capital budget if these changes are imposed on us. Now, we've spent a lot of this council meeting so far talking about cuts, and Bill 108 is effectively introducing more cuts or transfers or responsibility to pay for items. And this really flies in the face of the whole notion that is so essential to planning, and that's the belief that growth should really be paying for growth. Buried in the technicalities of the report are those real impacts for Torontonians, for your neighbors, for your residents, for your constituents. And that's 21 Toronto Public Library projects. That's 106 new and expanded park spaces. That's 17 community recreation centers, 5 pools, 4 arenas, over 200 playground improvements, and 12 childcare centers with some 580 plus spaces. These are all at risk with this legislation. The property tax base, as we know, simply cannot support building this kind of infrastructure. So for me, I would suggest that the approach by this government isn't just cavalier, it's also contradictory. On one hand, we are being told that we must build more housing to improve affordability, but we're not being given any of the actual tools to fund, build, or secure affordable housing. On the other hand, we're choking the mechanisms that we have as a city and as planners to actually help build the infrastructure we need to support this new growth. So that doesn't make any sense. And it's put forward on the basis that this government with claims they can't really support. So this whole conversation around the LPAT not really working, I'm not sure about that. We had the Ontario Municipal Board for more than 90 years. We've had the LPAT for barely one. I would suggest that we should actually give it a try and see how it works. But rather than helping making the planning process more predictable, what we're setting up now is yet a third tribunal process that applications will be going through. And this reduces processing timelines from 180 days to 210 days under the old new legislation to now 120 days. And this is actually going to result in more files ending up at the tribunal. What does that mean? That actually means longer wait times for hearing, more delay, and more uncertainty for applicants and residents. This legislation will actually take powers that would help, that will actually take away the powers that would help municipalities secure affordable housing. By linking inclusionary zoning, which as we've discussed is a very important tool for us as a city, to major transit station area plans, we risk delays because the policies for identifying and adopting MTSAs aren't even in place right now. We haven't seen the additional resources that would be required or new governance models that would help implement a new planning framework to support this policy. So like many of our communities, Beaches East York has a wide range of opinions on new development. But what we all generally agree on is that if we're building new homes, there should be a big component of affordability. And it should come with the critical infrastructure like transit, like parks, like childcare and recreation facilities to support that growth. Growth must pay for growth. And Bill 108 is the wrong approach to building complete communities. So as a planner, I've been very public in my support for planning reform. I want to see shorter review timelines, and that's something that we're going to have coming forward from our staff here through the end-to-end development review process. I want to see more transparency. I want to see more clarity. I want to see more predictability in the process. I think those are all good ideas and things that we should be working towards. And I think all Torontonians want to see more affordable housing. So while thematically Bill 108 speaks to these things, I think the proposed execution of it just doesn't get us there. It relies on the false notion that producing market housing will lead to more affordable housing. That's always going to be part of it, but that's not all of it. And this legislation lacks any of the tools that would actually secure affordable housing or pass on those savings to would-be buyers. It also suggests we can build more housing without the services and facilities that we need in place to support it. So we can't plan for good, healthy communities this way. We need clear regulations, feasible requirements, and strong partnerships. And what we have in front of us just doesn't get us there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just want to repeat that word. This is catastrophic. It's probably the most significant.
Do you have a motion?
Oh, yeah, I have my motion. My motion is that the City Council request the Chief Planner and Executive Directors city planning in consultation with the chief financial officer and treasurer to include a comprehensive list of soft and hard infrastructure costs such as child care centers, sewer construction, sidewalk construction in the financial impact section of all final planning reports. And just to speak again before the speaker cut me off, my word is catastrophic, Madam Speaker, catastrophic. This is the most important issue we're going to deal with in the 4 years of council, because this will affect our property taxes for the next who knows how many years. How many property tax increases we'll have to pass on to people because of this bill. Because they're going to have to pay for childcare centers, sidewalks, libraries that developers used to have to pay for in part as a result of them building these housing units, these condo units. Now they're basically going to pay less, much less, and the taxpayer is going to pay more. It's catastrophic because the fact is that it essentially makes the final decision of planning in Toronto and all of the province, it puts it in the hands of unelected people, a stronger, unelected group of people with a new OMB, with a different name. They're back at it, and you can imagine who they're going to appoint to this new OMB. It ain't going to be environmentalists, it's not going to be child care advocates, it's going to be friends of developers that are going to be appointed to this unelected body that's going to make decisions. And we, representing the people of Toronto, are going to have less say in the planning decisions going to affect our city. It's going to affect traffic and transit, because if you're going to have more housing, more building in our already saturated neighborhoods, like we need more condos at Yonge and Eglinton. You can't walk across the street. We're going to have to put crossing guards there so people can walk across the street to get onto the subway. You can't get on the subway in the morning, and they want another 20 condos going up in my ward and Councillor Matlow's ward. We could use more, yes. Quality of life is going to be affected because we're going to have less money for parks, less money for childcare centers, less money for libraries. This is the future of the city. In this piece of legislation that was introduced without consultation, again, never mind with us, with the whole province, it's been done, rushed through the legislature, jammed through, and I know Councillor Carroll said we should go to committee. So don't waste your time. The opposition is invisible up there. There's no opposition. We are the opposition. We're the only ones able to say this is wrong because there's a deafening silence coming from up the street to this kind of draconian legislation. So the future of our city is at stake. For years to come, it is untenable because the fact financially we can't afford all these costs of new development, and they're taking away our ability even to decide what kind of development best suits our neighborhood. Then our residents are all going to be shut out because the ultimate decision won't be made by our planners, it won't be made by the local council, it's going to be made by the faceless, nameless developers' friends who are going to be on the new OMB, who will rubber stamp all these, and they won't have to pay for the infrastructure costs. They're going to be off the hook. That's why I call it the Developers Lottery Winning Act. There isn't one developer, Councillor Karygiannis, that I've heard say one word against Bill 108. Not one. And God bless them. The development industry has done so well in Toronto, and they've helped build Toronto, and we know they've done a lot of good things, but you think one of them would say, hey, there's a mistake or there's something wrong with this. Not one. A deafening silence from an industry that's benefited by our great city. Our great city has provided them the opportunity to make billions. And all we say to them is, please respect the city, respect the people. No, we want to make more billions, maybe trillions they want to make. So this is maybe, rather than a $1 billion boondoggle for developers, it's a $1 trillion boondoggle for developers, Councillor Karygiannis. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And please address the chair rather than the councillor. We do have a question.
Sure.
3 minutes, clarification.
Thank you. Can we have the motion back up, please, Madam Speaker? Thank you very much. Councillor Cole, through the chair. You were up at Queen's Park for a decade, 15 years, if I remember correctly, and also a minister. Would that be? And yet you bring a fathom of information. And I want to, I mean, what you bring, is that a thoughtful approach from when you were there?
Yeah, and thank you
Okay,
for
but
that.
hold on.
Well, I'm just asking him about this. There's a second question coming up.
Just so you understand, Counselor, and I've said that so many times, to ask a question, you have to ask on the motion.
I am asking
Clarification on the
Madam Chair.
motion.
I'm asking clarification
No,
on the
no,
motion.
you're not, because read the motion.
Madam Chair, if you
Ask
will allow me
question
to ask
on
the
that.
second question, then I will,
No. You know the rules. The motion is in front of you. Do you have any questions on
Yes,
what's
I do.
before you?
Thank you. Would you be able to let us know, please, how do you see the child care centers, the sewer construction, the sidewalk, how they would be impacted by this bill?
Thank you for that question, Councillor. What I'm trying to do in this motion is basically say that when a report comes from planning about an application, what we need to do from now on in is ensure there's a comprehensive, robust outline of the cost of all these facilities, like your 20,000 new homes are coming into your ward, the cost of that would result from the approval of those 20,000 new homes. So I'm saying we need to have that in the planning report in a detailed manner.
Would this be something that you think that the government of Queen's Park has forgotten, I mean, in view of the fact that you were at Queen's Park for many, many years and also a cabinet minister?
Yeah, listen, what happens is that there's sometimes a separation from reality at Queen's Park. And that's why a number of years ago, I think in 1999, I moved a private member's bill to abolish the OMB. It took about 15 years to get that abolished. So we got it abolished, then all of a sudden the Dracula's back. So you can't get rid of it. It just keeps coming back.
What I'm trying I mean, your experience at Queen's Park certainly helped you draft this legislation, and yet you were not consulted at all on what is happening.
Again, you're not talking about the motion.
Let him answer the question.
No. You ask a question on the motion.
Was he consulted on?
No, I thank you, Councillor Karygiannis. The critical thing is our planning staff, which has got 35 years of experience from our chief planner, they were not even given the courtesy of a phone call, even a heads up on the most dramatic piece of planning legislation ever put on the floor of this council in all its years.
Thank you. Councillor Bradford, clarification of the motion.
Thanks. Through the Speaker, have you had a chance to speak with staff about the feasibility of this motion with the volume of the applications that come through?
Well, that's why I'm asking for the chief planner in consultation with the city executive director to report back on it, to see if they can do it. All I'm saying here is we do need this like we've never needed it before.
Yeah, I agree. It would be valuable information. I'm just concerned or not sure if that's feasible to deliver for every application in a way that's like meaningful numbers. So we should have a discussion with them about that, perhaps.
Yeah, and that's why I want them to report back on. All I'm saying here is that.
Can you throw the motion up? So it's a request to.
Yeah, hold on, please. I'm going to put your time on hold. There is an awful lot of noise. The media, members of council that are being interviewed, please. It's hard to hear.
Right.
Members of council that are up there. Councillor Matlow, Councillor Bailao. Maybe we can do the interviews at lunch break. Okay, Councillor Bradford, do you want to continue?
So I'm with you. Would we be able to, friendly amendment, ask for a feasibility report on the possibility of doing this? The way it's written to me sort of suggests that it's just, we're going to do this.
Frankly, Councillor, and I respect your years of education and working as a planner, this is so dangerous to the City of Toronto, the impact it's going to have on our property tax bills, that I want to be more aggressive than just looking at the feasibility. I think we need to have it. The real cost of development has got to come up front, because we can no longer assume that there's going to be the development charges, Section 37, Section 40. So we're in a whole new world here, so that's why I'm asking for this to be included somehow if possible.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm with you on the intent. I'm just wondering if it's practical or feasible.
Well, I don't think we have a choice. We've got a gun to our heads. The people of Toronto got a gun to their heads. They're going to have taxes go through the roof. We need to let them know what they're going to be paying for.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We have another question for you. Councillor Fillion, clarification of the motion.
Yes, Councillor Cole, I'm wondering if you would accept as a friendly amendment to take out the word include and make it to report on the feasibility of including.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay?
Is that's done? I don't need to move anything?
Yeah, I think they'll just amend it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Won't take it personally.
Councillor Pasternak to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Councillors Bradford and Cole, for giving most of my speech. And I'd like to also thank the staff for this report. As sobering and catastrophic as the implications of this are, and I'm not shy about using the word catastrophic, because if you look and read between the lines, this could have extreme negative implications for the city for the long term. The legislation that we're currently looking at today will probably amputate most of the 10-year capital plans for most of our most critical divisions. Infrastructure may not be flashy, but it is the talk of the town. It is the major point of conversation along our roads and stormwater systems, sewer systems. If you look south of the border, you can see a completely dysfunctional political system between the two parties. But there is one thing they will be agreeing on in the next 60 days, and that is a $2 trillion infrastructure project across the United States. So despite all their disagreements down there, they believe that infrastructure is one of the big priorities across the Western world. The parks that we promised may not happen. The recreational assets that we wanted may not occur. The library branches that we wanted to build may not take place. As a matter of fact, if this legislation was designed to speed up the planning process, I would argue that it's complete opposite. I would argue that this legislation creates conflicts between councillors and developers, creates conflicts between residents and developers, and creates conflicts between staff and developers. Those development applications that the building industry mistakenly believe that they will get fast-tracked will be slowed down. And moreover, if they think they're going to be saving money on this, I would argue the complete opposite. Their sales will sag. When people looking at buying a condominium will see that there will be no new park in their neighborhood, there will be no new daycare in their building, and there will be no new recreational assets in the area. And there'll be a full local school that they won't be able to send their children in. When people make a buying decision, they want a complete community. And this legislation negatively affects the ability to build those complete communities. Of course, communities are also what we cherish here is social cohesion.
Okay, just a sec, Councillor, sorry. Councillor Layton, please. It's getting awfully noisy in the council chambers. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In Ward 6, in recent years, we have 2 new daycares because of Section 37. We have 4 new parks either up and running or pending because of Section 42. We have a new gym at the Earl Bales Community Section, primarily because of Section 37. We are now building up much of the infrastructure that's leading to basement flooding and stormwater management. This also is paid for through Section 37. At the end of the day, this is supposed to create more choice and more opportunities. But on the last page, as I mentioned in questions, on the last page of the report, page 35, it says Bill 108 does not provide any mechanisms to ensure that any savings from reduced development charges and Section 37 and 42 Planning Act contributions are passed through to future home buyers and renters. As a matter of fact, this overall package is not respect for taxpayers. It is soaking taxpayers. The process that we have in place now is basically a private-public partnership. We are getting the private sector to pay for much of the infrastructure and community assets across the city. What the province is asking us to do is let the taxpayer pay and soak them and create a situation in which there's no affordable housing but extra cost housing. At the end of the day, I support staff and their ability to make our concerns known, and I support the motions that will make sure that our voice is heard, that this will severely damage the City of Toronto and our long-term potential.
Thank you. Councillor Wong-Tam to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would say that Bill 108 is a poorly veiled guise to end red tape, the so-called red tape, to diminish the so-called bureaucracy, and to build more housing. There's been absolutely nothing that's been put forward in Bill 108 that will guarantee that we will build more affordable housing, I should say, and the widest range of housing options. And that, of course, has been confirmed, absolutely confirmed by our Chief Planner in his excellent presentation under a very short timeline to understand the impact of what's before us. When I think about the 13 legislative pieces that are being amended by Bill 108, I recall a number of conversations over the last 9 years that I've spent in this chambers and in planning meetings and discussions with planning staff and with community of all the things that the planners wanted and what the developers wanted. And Bill 108 reads exactly as a menu, as if it was a policy that was actually designed and crafted and written by the consultants who actually are hired by the developers. It's exactly what they have been asking for in so many different conversations at the negotiating table over the years. And it cannot be a coincidence, Madam Speaker, that this policy, this new bill, is drafted with only the developers and the development industry's benefits in mind. And what is at risk is just about everything. The Endangered Species Act is pretty much irrelevant based on what's proposed in Bill 108. You can pretty much pay to kill and pay and continue on to sort of destroy everything that they have determined as endangered in Ontario. And there's been a number of times where developers have said, you know, you're taking too long. The application is taking too long. Well, the application process was not taking too long. They just weren't giving the city planning staff what they needed in order for them to move forward with this positive staff report. And all of that led us to many different discussions, including opt-eds and appearing before Queen's Park. I know I have, I know Councillor Matlow has, where we've actually just been pushing and pushing and pushing for OMB reforms. And that was after a number of years of advocacy. So when the announcement came out on May the 2nd that the OMB was coming back, I have to say I was devastated, personally devastated. But what I didn't know was that the OMB is not just back, but it's back in an uglier, more regressive form than ever before. Yesterday we received a report that was excellent. 38 recommendations, all excellent. And the recommendations and the amendment that will come from Councillor Bailao are equally good. Supporting the motion from Councillor Matlow to team up with now Team Ontario municipalities to go fight Bill 108, all excellent moves. But let's come back a little bit to what's at stake here in the City of Toronto. $500 million annually are collected from DCs annually. That's going to be impacted. Annually, about $123 million of Section 42, and annually about $30 million of Section 37. That's $653 million that we collect for those three streams that are now impacted. And we don't know. This is the scary thing. We have no idea what is coming in the regulations, what the details will be, because that is all being designed in the back rooms. So the impact here is not just the $180 million that we wrangled over yesterday between the healthcare cuts and the cuts to daycare and the streams in between, but it's actually much, much larger than that. We're heading into $1 billion a year cut, depending on what other secret and special announcements, last-minute announcements come out of Queen's Park on a Thursday or a Friday afternoon. This is significant. And what I would like to see is, quite honestly, and I'm going to say, I think that we need to take all of this in full seriousness. And I know that we're expecting leadership from our mayor, and he has certainly delivered that in spades when it comes to health care and when it comes to daycare cuts. But I need to see our mayor rise and be very vocal around Bill 108, because this is devastating to communities and to cities, and it's actually just as devastating, in my opinion, as the health care cuts and as the child care cuts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor, no, you only ask questions when there's a motion. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. Much of what I was going to say has been said, so I will be very brief. This bill was written by and for developers. That's it. Without notice, without warning, without consultation, what is being presented to cities across this province undermines planning, it undermines heritage, it undermines conservation. It doesn't in any way, as our Chief Planner has articulated, contribute in any manner to affordability. In fact, it comes on the heels of this government ending rent control. It takes away our capacity to invest in the infrastructure, both the social and hard infrastructure, to make our city livable. Goodbye to parks. You can say goodbye to child care and community centers. My goodness, you can say goodbye to some of the money we put into Toronto Water. And so you have to imagine the city you want before you can build it. And this act will take away our ability to plan our city. It's just that simple. If you want to build a city, you got to plan it, and you got to invest in it. If you want to build buildings, and that's it, you support this act. And so this is nothing more than Christmas for the development sector, and I look forward to joining with cities across this province, like on far too many other fronts, in fighting this terrible, short-sighted decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Layton to speak.
It's funny, the first line I wrote was the exact same first line as Councillor Cressy, that Bill 108 was written by developers for developers, because it is so blatantly clear. And I think many of us feel, oh, I have a motion. Sorry, apologies. It's coming up on the screen. I have it right here too. That City Council requests the General Manager Transportation Services in consultation with the City Solicitor to report back to the June 18th and 19th, 2019 City Council meeting on the legal implications of denying all road occupancy permits for development sites and forcing developers to build on site. It is so clear who's benefiting from this piece of legislation. Developers will be able to build higher, more density in larger areas. They won't have to listen to the community. They won't have to listen to the city. And they won't have to pay for the development, the impacts of their development on our city. This is written entirely for the development industry. I suspect most, if not all, communities across the province will agree with that. Because you know one theme that we all shared over the last decade? We all hated the OMB. That's why, just a couple of years ago, the reform from the OMB, well, first, why did we hate it? Because it was undemocratic, because it was unfair to communities, because it made it harder for people to participate in the decisions. And worst of all, it meant that someone from outside of your city, outside of your community, perhaps from halfway across the province, was ultimately making the decision on how a community would grow. It makes just as much sense to have someone from downtown Toronto and that planning framework adjudicate over something in Northern Ontario as it does for someone from Northern Ontario to be adjudicating over what happens in downtown Toronto. It makes no sense at all. It's not fair for them. It's not fair for us. And after decades of fighting, all parties agreed on that and supported the reforms that went forward. But now a new government, a new set of backroom deals, a new bunch of handshakes happening at whatever club that they're at. And what do we end up with? A piece of legislation that's going to run over local community planning, that's going to take money out of the pockets of cities to deliver services, and give the minister more say over what happens in our communities. Now, I don't know what other explanation we could have for such a terrible piece of legislation to come forward. You look at the number of buildings that are going up in the city, you measure the number of cranes. You know, like if a city's prosperity was measured by the number of cranes in the sky that there are, and it is, it's called a crane index, it is, Toronto leads the pack in North America. It is a lie to say that this council gets in the way of building housing in Toronto. What's going on here is trying to make it cheaper and easier for developers to get what they want. Look at DC's, like if we look at DC's, more than community benefit, but DC's will take away our ability to fund the basic elements of infrastructure for a city. Water pipes, roads. And we've learned that affordable housing could take a hit of $20 million a year that they right now get for the Open Doors program directly from DC's. Like this threatens, it's not all about childcares and community centers and parks. It should be, because those are important elements of a community, but it's all of those very basic things that are put at threat. Now, I put forward this motion, and I wanted it to go further. I'll tell you, I wanted it to go ahead and tell developers, if you're not willing to play by the rules that the city's already laid out, and you want to take advantage of this provincial sidestepping, then you're going to get denied at the city, that we're going to just reject your approval. I wanted to put that in. I was talked out of it by our chief planner. But let me serve notice to developers that if you want to sidestep the city policies, you're going to find a roadblock left, right, and center getting something built in Ward 11. Next week, we have road closure permits coming forward for large buildings, major developers. And if they were down there at the fundraiser or the Board of Trade event cheering on the Premier and his changes, they're not going to get approved for their road closures.
Councillor Layton, sorry. Thank you. Councillor Cole
Let them build it on site.
Yeah, Councillor Cole has a question for you. Clarification of the motion, please.
Motion, please.
It's right on your desk.
How about up on the screen?
Okay, we can put it on the screen.
Thank you. It's because your brother's here. Anyways.
There it is.
I just want to ask about your motion. Talk about these sort of obstructions that occur when they build these condos on main streets. I know I think it's in your ward on Bathurst and Bloor, the Mervish Center. Mm-hmm. I know there's all kinds of crane work and big concrete blocks on the public sidewalk there, isn't there?
Yes.
And so that's the kind of thing you're talking about, that if they apply for these sidewalk closures, in some cases they go right to the road. I don't think they go. So these are the ones that go to the road. How many of these do you have in your, I know you've got a lot of development. How many do you have in your ward?
So the ones on Bloor, to get very specific, are simply on the sidewalk, and they're a safety measure. We'd probably have to keep doing those, but the road closure on Bathurst is a great example. I would guess, I don't know for sure, but we're talking dozens of road closures that make it easier for developers to build their building. And that means they don't have to set aside space on site to do their loading when they're actually fabricating the building. In some places around the world, they make them do it on site. It's not often easiest for the developers. Sometimes it creates them delays, which are costly. But you know what? We're the ones deciding whether or not we should give them that road closure or not. Lots of them get lengthened. These things go on for years. Years they're getting a great deal on real estate on our main streets that are clogging traffic, that are making a big disruption for the city.
And you're getting a lot of complaints from motorists who are trying to get up and down these streets, and they have to go into one lane rather than two lanes because of, so the real, I think, critical thing you're trying to say is, especially when it's road closures, that you want to really ensure that this is not just given out without the implications of this road closure as a result of a development going on in a residential street.
Well, I think, you got to look at the impacts that developer and developments have on the city, the impacts of once they're built, and we need those critical pieces of infrastructure, as well as how they're building the buildings. And so I think this is, if we would like to ensure that we're minimizing the impacts during construction, then this would be a good way to go.
I haven't had one recently. They pay a fee for closing the road to build?
They do, and we've recently increased that fee.
How much do they pay usually?
I don't know off the top.
Anyway, thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Coe, clarification of the motion.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out how much they pay
Well,
for this.
that's not part of the motion. Recess to 2 o'clock.